A very good morning to one and all to the Faculty Development Program on Research and Innovation, jointly organized by St. Francis College, Bengaluru and Jyotinivas College, Autonomous, Bengaluru. I deem it my pleasure to welcome our chief patrons, Reverend Brother Peter, Director and IIC President, St. Francis College, Reverend Brother Titus Anto, Deputy Director and IIC member of St. Francis College, Dr. R.N. Subbarao, Principal and IIC member of St. Francis College, Mr. Karthik P., Vice Principal and IIC member of St. Francis College, and Dr. Sister Mary Louisa Sebastian, Principal and IIC member of Jyotinivas College Autonomous, to today's Faculty Development Program. I also extend a warm welcome to the advisors of this program, Dr. Karen Stanley, IQAC Coordinator from Jyotinivas College Autonomous, Dr. Balaji M., Dr. Ayappan M., Dr. Nazura Javed, Dr. Ambika N., and Dr. Pushpalata from the Research and Innovation Cell of St. Francis College. I would also like to welcome the coordinators of today's FDP, Dr. Pankaj A. Tiwari, Research and Innovation Coordinator and IIC Convener of St. Francis College, Dr. Eileen Getzi, Innovation Coordinator and IIC President from Jyotinivas College, Dr. Preeti Mangala, Research Coordinator and IIC Vice President from Jyotinivas College, and Dr. Priyadarshini Pillai, Research Coordinator and IIC Convener from Jyotinivas College Autonomous. Last but not the least, I extend a hearty welcome to all the online and offline participants who have joined this FTP on research and innovation. Before we begin today's sessions, I request Sister Arun Selma to lead us in prayer.
God our Father, we come to you today with all faith and trust, seeking your blessings on the Faculty Development Program on Research and Innovation. We pray for our Dr. Sister Mary Louisa Sebastian, Principal Jyotinivas College Autonomous, and the Directors of St. Francis College, resource persons of the day, administrators, professors, student and support staff of our institutions, as well as for those participating in the online session. May we grow in wisdom and collaboration in gaining knowledge and experience. Grant us understanding, counsel, and fortitude as we pursue education across the institution. Strengthen us from within to better ourselves and become ardent seekers of knowledge. May all our endeavors to gather knowledge and skills inspire us to explore the miracle of your infinite wisdom. We commit ourselves into your care. We make this prayer in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Sister. I now request our Principal, Dr. Sister Mary Louisa Sebastian, to address the gathering.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed resource persons, faculty members of St. Francis College and Jyotinivas College Autonomous, and aspiring young scholars who have joined us this program. Research and innovation play a pivotal role in higher education. First and foremost, I congratulate the organizers of this collaborative initiative, both from St. Francis College and our college. My hearty congratulations to faculty of Francis College and our own faculty, Dr. Preeti Mangala, Dr. Priyadarshini Pillai, Dr. Irene Getzi, and the IQAC. It is indeed necessary that we should consider it mandatory to promote the spirit of inquiry and pursuit of knowledge through research and innovation. Research and innovation are the driving forces behind progress and development. They fuel advancements in every field, from science and technology to arts and humanities. Our colleges are not just places of theoretical learning. They should be hubs of ideas where curiosity transforms into groundbreaking discoveries. To foster a culture and research, we empower scholars to question, to explore, and to contribute to the ever evolving human knowledge. Knowledge is not confined to classrooms. It extends to laboratories, libraries, and collaborative spaces where ideas are born and nurtured. Innovation is the bridge between knowledge and application. Dear faculty members and scholars who are part of this virtual platform, you are not just learners, you are creators, inventors, and problem solvers. Engaging in innovation goes beyond grades. It instills a mindset that seeks solutions and embraces challenges. As future leaders, our scholars must be equipped not only with information, but also with the skills to adapt and innovate in a rapidly changing world. I urge each one of you to actively engage in research projects and also to cultivate a thirst for knowledge that transcends the boundaries of conventional education. Remember that innovation is not reserved for a select few. It is a mindset accessible to all who dare to dream and work diligently. Together, let us contribute to foster and nurture an environment where research and innovation flourish. The journey of discovery is not always easy, but it is the path that leads to progress, transformation, and a brighter future for the society as a whole. Thank you, and may our academic journey be marked by a relentless pursuit of knowledge and a commitment to innovation. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, sister, for highlighting the importance of research and innovation and their importance in widening our horizons. I now invite Dr. Pankaj Tiwari from St. Francis College to introduce Dr. Soumya Rani and begin the first session.
Uh, Thank you, Dr. Rima Lobo. I'm delighted to be here, and it's my privilege to introduce our first resource person for today, Dr. Soumya Rani. She has been playing multiple roles and diverse backgrounds. So quickly, I will read out information about her, and it's my privilege to read the your profile, Soumya ma'am. She has been editor from last 5 years, and with the Cactus Communications, she has edited over 1,500 plus scientific documents, including research review and other article forms, thesis, grant applications, annual reports, and science communication content. She's been highly ranked expert editor in the COE of biochemistry, genetics, and molecular biology. Apart from that, she's a speaker from last 6 plus years, and she began her role as a DAAD Young Ambassador in the 2017-18. She is been most viable entrepreneur also from IM NSR Cell, and she's a part of Women Startup Program 4.0. She is also been awarded fellowship from the DID Sandwich Model Scholarship for PhD registered scholars to carry out the part of the PhD work at University of Würzburg, Germany. She is also the part of Council of Scientific and Industrial Research Junior Research Fellowship, and she's also been awarded many awards, and she's also national and state level exams qualified. It's our privilege, Dr. Soumya, to welcome you for the first session, which is on the research. I welcome to you, and it's over to you, ma'am. Soumya, ma'am.
You should just check that. Yeah, I did. So good morning, everyone. We just had a small glitch in me being the presenter, but yeah, thank you for that lovely introduction there, Dr. Pankaj. It has been a pleasure communicating with you over the past days, running up towards the program, and I'm really happy to be here on this Saturday morning. So let's go ahead.
Will you be able to present from your end, ma'am?
Yeah, I guess it's okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet. Maybe the network is little slow, looks like.
Okay.
Priyadashini,
is it-
ma'am, will you be able to see? Because from my, yeah, I think, yeah, it's up and running. Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am,
Okay,
we can
great.
see that.
Yeah, just give me a moment. I just went back to not sharing, but does it work now? Looks good.
Yes.
So I'll not be, yeah, okay, great. So let's go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah. Anyone in research, anybody in academia, we have all heard this phrase, publish or perish. That has been kind of the guiding principle, I would say, a very misguided guiding principle that has kept us pushing to publish more. Sometimes, irrespective of the quality, irrespective of the venues which we choose to publish. This year came up with a very interesting story a few months ago about this lady researcher you see here. I'm sure most of you already recognize her. So she was a researcher who joined the University of Pennsylvania in the late 1980s, almost towards the 1990s. And she was interested in working on something called the packaging materials for mRNA. Yeah. And this particular research was not really well known. It was not taking off. So she could neither secure the funds to continue her research the way she wanted to, nor could she bring in the necessary number of publications. So University of Penn is one of the top universities in the US. And the administration decides she's not up to the mark. So they force her to take a pay cut, kind of demote her from her position. And in due course of time, they also force her, they put her in a tight spot where she is forced to resign from her position, despite that she loved her work, she loved the research she did. So she leaves slightly, and then she joins a German company, and she continues her research on how to package this pretty interesting molecule called mRNA so that they could be delivered into human cells. So this keeps happening. Come 2019, we all know what happened. The world was turned upside down by COVID-19, and suddenly Pfizer finds that this is a great technology to develop as vaccines. So though there has been a lot of talk around the mRNA vaccines, none of the vaccines were actually validated and taken to clinical trials or to practice. But Pfizer thought this was a great opportunity. They work with this researcher here, bring out the vaccine. And this vaccine saved millions of lives, or at least as Pfizer claims. But then this year, this lady young at heart also goes on to win the Nobel Prize for her work. And now the University of Pennsylvania is scrambling on its hands and feet, I would say, to get the due recognition, which they don't deserve. So that is Kathleen Carrico for you, the winner of the Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine this year. So Carrico winning this year's Nobel Prize has rekindled the debate around why you should publish, why you should do your research. Should you be focusing on impact on the society, or should you be focusing on just getting your research into high journals? I would leave you to choose these sides. But if it were up to me, I would try to find a balance between creating impact and getting those ivory tower impact factors. But that's a story for another day. So no matter why you are, there are key pillars to a good manuscript, a good scientific communication. If your results are not present, no matter how with your writing, how intentions are, they're not going to hold water. So always make sure that you have the best research behind you when you are trying to write your manuscripts. Be your own criticizers, be your own reviewers to ensure that there are no loopholes, there are no discrepancies, and sometimes it might not always was some results could be unclear, but then be upfront in stating them in your paper so that the scientific community looks at you as someone reliable and not just as a paper. So the corollary here is that no matter how great results you have, if you're not able to communicate them in a very clear and understandable language, then your research is going to remain undiscovered, I would say. So this story that comes to my mind when I talk about clear communication is that of Mendel. So some of you from the biology background or even others who studied biology in your school days, you must remember Gregor Mendel, who did amazing work in genetics. But then his work remained undiscovered because it was not communicated. It took almost several decades before they were rediscovered and communicated. So do good research, but then also make sure that you communicate it in good language. And then comes the time factor. Here, I'm not just talking about time management in writing your papers or so, but then in terms of deciding when you want to publish. So when should I publish my research? Should I publish it as soon as I get my preliminary results? Or should I say wait for 10 years before I have the complete picture to publish? There is no magic number I can give you here. It will very much depend on the field you are working in. So say you are working in you're working on a research that involves taking the product to humans, then obviously it is going to take a lot of time, a lot of validation before you can actually publish your results because lives are at stake. But then say you're working in a very fast-paced area like artificial intelligence, machine learning, then waiting a few months means somebody
Soumya
has
ma'am,
already.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because looks like the network from your end is little weak. I would request you can switch off your video so that at least we can hear you fine.
Yes, just give me a moment. Let me also check where my
Yeah, because it is there's a lag between the conversation and the PPT slides. So I would really request you kindly switch off your video so that at
yes.
least we'll get the
yeah,
PPT
sorry about
right.
that, Dr.
Yeah.
Pankaj.
No worries,
I
no
think,
worries, no worries.
yeah, my internet
Because
was my,
participants are mentioning on the chat box, so I'm just trying to coordinate that.
Great. So it was my laptop was connected on the wrong network. So I think I have set it right. Should be fine. If you still experience
No
issues,
worry,
just
yeah.
let me
No,
know.
no problem.
Yeah, it was
No,
connected
no
to my,
problem. Yeah.
my mobile instead of my Wi-Fi. Okay, let's get this
All right.
going.
Please continue.
So yeah. So there is no magic number that I can give you here. It will depend on your field. So as I was saying, if you're working in artificial intelligence, machine learning, then you don't want to really wait. You want to get those preliminary results out there because you want to be the first person on the moon and not the second person who gets forgotten. So choose based on your field. You have to work on identifying the ideal time. You should also identify when you should stop doing things in the lab, or rather pause doing things in the lab and focus on getting your work out there into the real world. So the manuscript writing process per se does not start when you start writing the manuscript, but then the idea is being conceived right when you're thinking about your results. Be it when you're writing your grant applications, your research proposals, that is the starting point where you should be thinking about your paper. And any good paper rests on novelty. Yeah, you cannot reinvent the wheel and then expect it to be applauded. You must have been the first to invent the wheel or find something else to invent if the wheel has already been invented. So the first thing for a good paper is to ensure that you have a novel idea, you have an interesting idea that the audience are interested in knowing. What are your colleagues interested in knowing? What is your field lacking? Where is the research gap? Identifying the right questions, devising the right hypothesis, and the methodology forms a huge part of having a good paper at the end. So start thinking about papers right when your idea gets conceived and work around it as much as you want before you delve into the methodology. Make sure that it is indeed novel, it is indeed doable, and your methodology would answer these specific hypothesis questions in a bit convincing way at least. And then you go into the data collection process. Here again, think what your audience wants. How good or how robust must your methodologies be? Are you using the right number of samples? Are you looking at the right populations? Are you using the right statistical tools? Because every part of the data will determine your results and the strength of your discussions later. Then comes the actual process where you sit down to write your first draft or the zero draft of your manuscript. This could be the hardest part of the publication process because we have a lot of writer's block because we feel that we'll be judged based on our words, based on what we present. But when that happens, remember one thing, first drafts are for the trash. They don't get published. They don't have to be viewed by anyone. It is all you. You write, you see, you keep iterating, you keep bringing in new versions, and only when you are ready, the world gets to see it. So just unleash yourself and write it is what I would say. And having a structure, having a framework into which you can actually fit your research into really, really helps. And then comes the fifth stage where perfection matters, where you perfect your manuscript in terms of the formatting for the journal, in terms of your language, in terms of structure. This is where editors such as myself come in, where we handhold the authors to make your manuscripts polished and perfect. It is not necessary that you always need external help. You could, of course, do it in your own ways and time. We'll not deal into. But remember, no matter what kind of manuscript or what kind of material you want to put there out into the world, your manuscript is your story, a story personal to you, maybe known to a few teammates and colleagues, but it's completely new to the world. So if you tell a good story, people will be interested in reading your story. This sounds kind of too philosophical and something that belongs in the realm of fiction writing. But believe me, telling your story in a very compelling way is as relevant to your manuscript as it is to fiction stories and legendary writing. So make sure that your story is complete. It makes sense. You don't leave any loose ends on your manuscript. Any questions you open up in the introduction section, for instance, have to be closed or has to be closed in your discussion and concluding sections. That gives a complete picture to the readers. So when you talk about a manuscript, an original manuscript, a review article, or an editorial, for instance, there are several questions that you can answer. You can tell your readers what was done, how it was done, where was it done, who did these research experiments, and so on. But always remember that the most important question that you'll be answering for your research is why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Who benefits out of it? Basically, the why goes back into the readers. It points you towards the direction of the society. So why are you doing it? What inspires you to do it? Or rather, why are you doing it? And what problem are you trying to actually solve? So always find the why for your research. That should form the core of your story, not just for one paper, but then it has to form the crux of your research journey as a whole, I would say. Before you actually go ahead and write your own papers, it is essential that you read papers written by others. And these collection of papers that comprise the work that happened before you, they are collectively called the literature. And reading, digesting, and processing literature, and then finally bringing them into your papers is a skill set in itself. So make sure that you have a strategy to read papers as well. If you're a young researcher just stepping into research, then maybe it makes sense to start from the abstract. But if you're a seasoned researcher, the figures and tables are the place where you want to start, because then you get an unbiased idea of what the data looks like. You get to make your own opinions. You are not wavered by the biases that the authors have in the discussion section and so on. So for seasoned researchers, all you have to do is just stick to the display items, stick to the results, and maybe slightly peek into the discussion and introduction, and you're almost done reading the paper. But then, say you are a very young researcher, even then, I would say never go into the introduction, never go into the discussion, but rather start from the results, because results are precise, they are true, they are there as they are in most cases, at least, which means you get to do your own analysis and form your own. And when it comes to literature, there are different sources of literature: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Say, for instance, Wikipedia is a tertiary source. We don't really use Wikipedia when reading about scientific literature, but say, for instance, if there is a question, can I start reading about my research from Wikipedia? Yes, of course, you can start, would be my answer, but don't stay there. Once you're done with Wikipedia, once you're done with scientific blogs and podcasts, then move on to secondary literature like review articles, for instance, because they are much more robust, they are peer reviewed, and they have give you more facts. But always remember that no matter where you read, where you collect your information, you should always go back to what is called the primary literature, where the authors who do the experiments or who have collected the data and worked on it present the data themselves. So these are the most reliable sources of information. And anytime you're writing a paper, make sure that you cite primary literature and not secondary literature. Don't even think about tertiary literature. They do not come into the citing process at all, at least as long as scientific manuscripts for journals are considered. Maybe in book chapters, yeah, to a certain extent, but stick to primary literature when you want to cite. And look beyond the results. Say I have two papers, A and B, which have contrasting results. Which paper do I believe? Say A is much more longer paper. It claims a lot many other things. And B is a very simple, very humble paper. So I cannot choose B because it's humble. I cannot choose A because it's boisterous and all over the place. So how do I decide which of these two papers with completely contrasting results are actually relevant to my work, or which of them are more reliable? For this, I'll have to go back to the methodology. So as important as results are, looking at the methodology will tell me who had a better methodology, who had better samples, who had better statistical analysis, and the paper which had an upper hand in the methodology is the paper that I want to believe, irrespective of what they claim in the discussion or in the abstract sections. So don't only look at results, look at the methods. Look at the introduction, because that tells you the whole story of the field. Where did it start and where are they right now? What are the gaps and why is this paper being published in the first place? Look at the discussions. There is something called limitations. So normally there are a lot of controversial uh, thoughts when we talk about including limitations in your own papers, your own limitations of the study, but it's a good practice to start off with. And these limitations give you opportunities to look for research gaps. What is not known, what could not be done until now, or by these authors, by research in general, how could you fill it as a researcher? Can you pick up those questions from the limitations? Can you pick up those suggestions or expansions that were suggested in the limitations and make it the core of your own research, which will lead into your own additions to the literature and so on? So look beyond results, look beyond abstracts, scan through different sections, look for the right things from different sections to have a holistic. So anytime we talk about reading papers, the next question that pops up is, where do I find these papers? Where do I find these full texts? Because journal publishing is a pretty profitable industry, and it is ruled by a handful of oligarchs, I would say, publishing houses, which has made it pretty costly for the readers. It has made it pretty costly for the authors to publish their work as well. So without going into that, we all understand that accessing papers has its own limitations. So where do you overcome these limitations from? SkyHub and LibGen are, of course, great resources, but be aware that they cannot be fully legal. They are not fully legal. And also they are under a lot of legal complexities and legal contentions all across the world, which means they are crippled in how much they can upload, and also they are crippled in where they can source their materials from. So if we are looking for alternatives that are more legitimate, paid, slightly paid, and also free alternatives, I would say these four resources have been doing pretty well among them to cover a lot many journal papers and also book chapters. If you're looking for a place where you can access literature without having to pay the humongous subscription fees that several journals require at the moment. So how do I identify literature that is relevant to my work? Anyone who has had experience with Google will know that if you overwhelm Google with too many words, too many contrasting words, especially, then either Google uh, refuses to give you the results because it cannot understand exactly what you're asking for, or it brings up a lot of results that don't really make sense to you because they're not corresponding to your request. So this is where framing the right key strings becomes important for your Google Scholar search, for your PubMed search, or for any other scholarly search where you are looking for papers, looking for resources. Say, for instance, I say Apple. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? I have not had my breakfast, so maybe the first thing that comes to my mind is it's a nice red apple or a tall glass of apple juice. But then, if we have Steve Jobs fans in the house, or all these tech-savvy people out there, then maybe you remember Steve Jobs, you remember your iPad, you remember your iPhones and AirPods and whatnot. So a word as simple as Apple can bring very different meanings to the context, and the search engine will not know, at least not as of now, if I'm hungry and I'm looking for the closest joint where I can find my fix of apple juice, or if I'm trying to buy an AirPods for myself, right? So if a simple word can be so confusing, imagine using complex terms. And in science, sometimes there are terms which overlap between different research areas, and the search engine will not be able to figure out what exactly you are looking for unless it has been given access to your complete history and you've been doing this for some time. Then maybe, yes, it can really figure it out. It's that smart. This is why it's important that you sit down, have a strategy, create a list of key strings, which will be your search points in communications with your search engine. And Boolean operators are something some of you still use and remember if you are from certain fields, but then I'm sure most of you have learned it during your school days. They are not outdated. Use these Boolean operators appropriately to put your search words together to form appropriate key strings so that you glean out the right articles from the search engine. This is very important because reading thousands of articles to find that 300, 400 of them were not relevant to your research is definitely not fun. So have the right strategy to find the right articles. And once you find these articles, then comes the process where you have to read them. A tough, boring process, I agree. Coming from someone who reads manuscripts day in and day out for my day job, it could get pretty taxing and boring. But this is an essential part of your writing as well. So once you have these manuscripts, make sure that you have notes, at least for the key manuscripts. Say you have around 100 manuscripts that will go into your research article as references in your introduction and discussion sections. Then you will have to read through these 100 articles. Yes, you don't have a choice. Maybe you can skip a few articles here and there because they were not available. But for you to ethically and accurately quote an article, it is mandatory that you have read the article. And once you read these articles, you will have to make notes. We have used Excel sheets, we have used all different formats, but one conventional, very simple way to do this is to have a whiteboard at your place, in your room, maybe in your lab, in your office, and you can convert each of these papers into a post-it. So one paper goes into a decent size post-it, and this post-it goes onto your whiteboard. And the good thing about post-its is that they are not fixed. You can remove them, repaste them, reorganize them to form different clusters, different structures as your manuscript develops. You don't have to always do it in a very conventional way. You can also do this online nowadays. There are a lot many free whiteboards available. You can just register up for one of these whiteboard services, and you will be able to, write your notes, share your notes. Being online means you can also share notes with your collaborators or with your students who are across the world. So coming back to food, I guess I'm obsessed with food. So when you look at this picture, when you hear the word biryani, for instance, what is the first thing that you think of? Or what are the different things that you can think of? Some of you, I'm sure, can remember the smell of biryani. Some of you can remember how it feels to touch. You can also remember the crunchiness of the vegetables or the meat. You remember how it tasted, for instance. Can you remember the last time you had this dish? Remember the group of people you had it with, the occasion why you had it with, sometimes even the emotions with which you had this food at the last instance. So all I gave you was a single word. How are you able to come up with so many memories? You had memories with auditory cues, you had memories with tactile cues, vision-based cues, and so on, because your brain never remembers memories in silos. For your brain, everything is related to each other. That is why shaking off childhood traumas is pretty difficult, because there are so many triggers. Every memory is uh, underlined with a lot of triggers and information. So the way that your brain remembers this is called mind mapping. And bringing on this idea of mind mapping onto paper is a great way to plan your research, plan your manuscripts, and even plan your career per se. So mind maps are non-linear. You can be as creative as you want. There are not many rules. Basically, mind maps start with the core idea, and then you can keep expanding on it, keep creating sub branches around it. Say, I want to create a mind map for my manuscript. I want to create a mind map based on the different sections. So then say the core idea goes at the center, and then I start with the introduction, one other sub branch for materials and methods, one for results. And now it is important that I ensure that the sub branches on materials and methods are tied neatly with the sub branches on the results and so on. So mind mapping is a great technique you can use to design your manuscripts, to design the skeleton of your manuscripts and the idea before you go forward. And as I mentioned, remember them that they are non-linear and they start from a core and they keep expanding. So this is a very rough template of what a mind map can look like, but you can go creative as much as you want. And remember, mind maps are also great tools to kind of sort out your journey as a researcher, as an academic, because a manuscript or a research grant or a particular research that you're doing is not a standalone research. So the research you do today has to form the foundation for all the different paths that you'll take, say, 3 years, 4 years down the lane. And those papers or those manuscripts will lead to more manuscripts, more ideas, which means having a vision of the end goal really, really helps. Say you are someone who wants to find a cure for pancreatic cancer, or you want to add something more to the field of pancreatic cancer. So what are the different things that you're interested in? There are 1,000 or even more things that you can do around this particular disease. But what do you want to do? Do you want to find the cure? Do you want to find the basic mechanisms behind? If you want to find the basic mechanisms behind, what exactly are you interested in? Are you looking at biochemistry? Are you looking at genetics? Are you looking at the other molecular biology components? What is it that you are interested in? So make sure that you have an NMAP for all your manuscripts for your life's work. Maybe plans change, your ideas change later on, but then right when your starting writing your first grant, have an idea of what you want to do 10 years from now. What is it that you want to discover or give back to the scientific community 10 years from now? Or say you have an ambition of publishing in an ivory tower journal 10 years down the lane. Are you choosing the right journals? Are you choosing the right path to reach that destination? You want to find a cure for pancreatic cancer. Have you thought about all the ethical implications? Have you thought about the number of years that will be spent in doing clinical trials? Do you have the expertise to start from cell lines, move to animals, move to human clinical trials? If not, where can you collaborate? Who can help you? Who are your collaborators and contemporaries there? So a manuscript writing or a publication has to be much beyond the manuscript itself. You will have to think it through in a much wider perspective. So for today, there are umpty number of manuscripts, but then I will focus on the research article and I'll slightly touch upon the importance of writing a review article as well. The rest has to wait for a different section. So why have I chosen a research article? Because research articles definitely have a prestige of their own, because you are the researcher there. You have got your hands soiled. You are in the field getting the data and also presenting the data. And if you're a PhD student, then it is mandated that you publish 2-3 research articles to get your PhD. If you're if you're an early career researcher thinking of getting grants, then again, research articles come in handy. Supervisors who want to have that promotion, or you want to kind of up the game with your research, then again research article becomes mandatory. So we have around 800 registrations for this session, and across all the disciplines. So we have participants from commerce, management, from science, from medical sciences, from UG students to professors, college principals, even I'm told. So no matter where you are on the research journey, you will have to publish research articles. That is why I have chosen to speak about them for today. So when you say a research article, you have done your research and you will have to present this data in a certain way. And normally research articles have way too many different sections in them. And a good article is not just about the main text, but you'll also have to think about the front matter, the back matter, the declarations, references, and so on. So I am not going to go into explaining how these sections are numbered or ordered, but rather let's look at a more important existential question of where to start writing these research articles. They have so many sections. There's introduction, there's abstract, there are highlights, there are declarations, references, introduction, materials and methods. So where do I start? Where do I start doing this huge process? The first step is journal selection. This would sound pretty counterintuitive because normally journal selection happens after you have finalized on your manuscript and you're ready to submit it to a particular journal. Doesn't always work because each journal comes with its own requirements. Say, for instance, you're someone who's interested in publishing in Nature. Across the publisher, several of the journals, so Nature and the affiliated journals, they have very limited space for you to publish your work. They limit your words to 1,500 to 2,500 words, somewhere around that spectrum. You have written a beautiful manuscript of 10,000 words long. You have completed the manuscript and now you decide, okay, I want to publish this in Nature. How on earth will you convert a 10,000 word manuscript into a 1,500 word manuscript? That is a nightmare. Even for professional editors who do this day in and day out, it's a nightmare. I'll take weeks, if not months, to get your manuscript from 10,000 to 1,500 words because it is difficult. So before you even start writing your manuscript, have a general idea on where you want to publish, what the rules and regulations are. Say if you're in biological sciences, medical sciences, look at the ethical statements as well, so that you are not really setting up yourself for failure when it comes to this particular journal. And the actual writing starts from the results, starts from the display items. Once you have your data, don't leave it as raw data. Always convert the data then and there. I would say every day. at least every week, convert data into your figures and tables, graphs, whatever you want to convert them into, and keep them ready. And once these display items are ready, make sure that you write the corresponding results, explain the results, explain the statistical uh, methodology. So first write the results, not the methods, results. And once you're done with your results, you're done with your figures, figure legends, tables, and so on, then comes writing the materials and methods. So why do we write results first and then the materials and methods? Because you might have hundreds of results over the course of a few years, but you want to publish only 10 of those results. So why do you have to waste your time writing hundreds of methods when they'll not be actually a part of your manuscript? You can, of course, write them as drafts for your reference, but when you start a manuscript draft, finish the results, and then include only those methods that are corresponding to the results that you have already presented. Then you write the discussion. So why discussion? Why not introduction? Because discussion has a structure to it. Normally, it has a kind of a summary of your results, and then you talk about how it is related to research results published already. You talk about the significance of your work, the practical applications, limitations of your studies, which will automatically lead you into the future directions. Unlike a discussion, an introduction does not really have a steady structure, I would say. Let's go back to the example of pancreatic cancer that I was talking about. Where do I start my introduction from? Should I start talking about cancer and then talk about the hundreds of different types of cancers there? Then talk about pancreatic cancer, then about how there is no sufficient cure, and then about my work. This sounds very logical, but then I could also directly start from how pancreatic cancer does not have a sufficient cure and then start talking about what I propose to do about it. Both of them look like very valid introductions. How do I choose between these two? I do not really choose. The journal chooses it for. So where am I trying to publish my book? Who are my audience? Say I am trying to publish my work in in International Journal of Cancers, then the readers are not just pancreatic cancer people. They are from diverse backgrounds working on different cancers. So for them, I should introduce pancreatic cancer within the ages of cancer as a whole. But then say I am picking a journal called the Indian Journal of Pancreatic Cancer. These are people who know pancreatic cancer, who work with it day in, day out. I don't have to introduce cancer to them. I can directly delve into the gaps in research at the moment within the confines of treating pancreatic cancer, and then go ahead and present my book. So your introduction, your title, and your abstract are determined by the journal. Your abstract and title should directly speak to the editorial board of the journal and, of course, to the readers of the journal later on. But remember that until introduction, you have to keep reframing these three sections. The title, abstract, and introduction gets reframing each time you move from one journal to the other. The results, not so much. The methods, not so much. Discussion, yes, certain sections of the discussion change when you change a journal, but these initial sections completely change as you move from one journal to the other. So that is why it is important to craft them in the order. And when you come to abstract, there's nothing called abstract writing. You finish your paper, you copy all the key sentences from different sections of the paper, put it into a Word document, say around 500, 600 words, and then you do a thorough job of proofreading to bring it down to 200 to 300 words or any number of words that your journal requires. Some journals even want you to keep them as short as 100 words. So bring it down to the necessary word limit and you have your abstract. And as you're writing, don't forget that there are other things that have to be taken into consideration as well. Discuss about the author order, have a few working titles always ready in your hand, because some journals want you to get permission from people before you add them to the acknowledgement section. Have you talked to them? Have you gotten their permission? And then comes the huge question of references. There's no shortcut to this. Understand, learn, and start using a reference manager tool like Mendeley, Zotero, for instance, even before you start writing your manuscript, right when you start collecting your literature, so that all your literature libraries are in one place and you can cite, change reference format, include bibliography or reference list in clicks, in seconds, in a few clicks. If you try and do it manually, it is going to take forever, a huge waste of time and efforts, I would say. So the first question of how to choose journals. Choosing journals used to be a pretty straightforward process. You choose to publish in the same journal that a supervisor has published in, or you have a handful of journals which your lab aims to publish in the future and you pick one out of them. But publishing has become such a profitable industry, and so many things are tied to publications, which means several predatory practices and illicit practices have crept into this arena of journal publications, and this has made choosing the right journal a bit difficult. So what are the different things that I will look for in choosing a journal? You can look at the impact factor. You can look at how often it publishes, how long it has been in the field. You can look for the editorial board. There are so many things. Hundreds of different factors you can look at before choosing a journal. But what if I had to pick out my top two non-negotiables? I will pick the perfect match with my aims and scope, with the aims and scope of the journal, and the time taken by the journal to publish as my non-negotiables. Because if my manuscript is not a good match to the aims and scope, the journal is going to reject my paper, or even if it gets accepted and published, it will not reach the eyes of the readers that I want, because that journal is going to have a completely different reader profile than what I am aiming for. And say, for instance, I am going to submit my paper to a journal which takes its own sweet time, 1 year, 1.5 years to publish, then my research becomes outdated by then and my paper loses its value, which means once I have my results, I should have a reasonable time of 3 to 6 months where my paper will get published. So these two will be my personal non-negotiables, I would say. And these are also great non-negotiables you can have when you want to choose your journal. And there are several tools that can help you choose journals. Some of these are publisher tools, which means they will help you find journals within the publisher. But then there are also other tools like Chain Edance, for instance, where you can choose journals based on your abstract and title from across different publishers. So once your title and a rough abstract is ready, you don't have to have the perfect final abstract. Just write a rough abstract with all the necessary keywords, input them into one of these tools. They'll give you journals which are matched according to the keywords in your abstract and the keywords that the journal is looking for, or the aims and scope match of the journal. This will help you solve point one of my first non-negotiable. For my second non-negotiable of the time to publish, it's a bit more trickier than that. When it comes to publishers like Elsevier, for instance, they outright tell you how long they take to publish on their homepage. If you find such a journal, good for you. If not, you will have to take the pains to ask around, find other authors who have published in the journal to hear their experiences and the time taken for them to publish. These two information is pretty important. So you will have to find out answers to these questions before you decide on a journal, among all the other things. Yeah. So what is the red flag when it comes to journal selection? So what will tell me that I cannot choose this journal? Several factors again, but here again, the top factor is when you see fees and FAST together. So when a journal says, okay, submit your paper today, we'll get it published in 1 week. Just make sure that you make the payment right when you do the submission. That's a huge red flag, because good journals, even if they charge thousands of dollars and euros, they don't ask you to pay the processing charges upfront. It's only after your paper is submitted to the editorial board, it moves into the review process, it's accepted by the journal for publication. That is when you'll be offered or you'll be asked to pay something known as the article processing charge, which then you make a decision to go ahead with the publication or not, or rather you should look at it much earlier when you're choosing the journal to see that if there is an APC, then it is affordable for you. These journals, called predatory journals, are a huge bane to the publication industry, because they take away your work, they take away your money, and they do not really give you anything in return. So what are predatory journals? They are journals that do not have a proper peer review process. They do not have a good editorial team. They pretty much don't add any value to your paper. They get your paper, they get your money, and they get it published in a place which is of no worth to you, because even with institutions and universities, as a PhD student, universities have their own standards as to where you can publish your work, and these predatory journals will not come up to the mark. So make sure that you don't fall for these predatory practices. And looking at indexes is a great place to ensure that these are not predatory journals. Say you have Scopus, you have Web of Science, you have the ABDC ranking, you have Sky Mago rankings, you have the UGC CARE list if you're from India, for instance. But always make sure that within these rankings, there is sub rankings. Like for Scopus, you have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Similarly for UGC CARE. So never aim for the final slot. Don't go for the Q4. Always try to aim for Q2 and Q3. And if you have decently good research, I would say go ahead, aim for Q1, get a rejection, and then we can step it down to Q2 if you want for the second chance. In addition to predatory journals, now there is another concern called journal hijacking. So journal hijacking or clone journals is when a site is set up and the site copies everything that is there on a legitimate journal website. This looks exactly like the website of a legitimate journal, but then they do not have any of the backend processes. They just have the website. They have a system where they want to collect your fees. They give you a system where you can submit your paper, submit, pay, and then it gets published in a very shady site. When you go back to your Scopus, trying to find your Scopus profile, trying to find your Google index and citations, you see that this paper never comes up because it was not published in the legitimate journal, but rather on a clone journal. So how do you overcome this? One good way is to always go to the indexing site or the publisher site and then search your journal and find the link to the particular journal from there. So instead of say I am looking for Journal of Biotechnology, it's from Elsevier, for instance. Then instead of Googling for Journal of Biotechnology, I'll go to the Elsevier site and I'll search for the journal within the publisher site, or I'll go to the Scopus site, search for the journal within the indexing site, and then I'll take the link to the particular journal from there to ensure that I'm indeed landing on the legitimate page and not on the hijacked page. So the next question you should be asking yourself is, where do you want to publish? Do you want to publish it open access or subscription? So I just mentioned some time ago that publications or the publishing industry per se has become highly profitable, and somebody is profiting, the publishers obviously, but for somebody to get the money, somebody else has to pay. Who pays? If the author pays, then the paper is put out there for everyone to read. This is called the open access model. If the reader, the author is not able to pay, then the reader has to pay to get access to the entire paper. This is the subscription-based model. So where do you want to put your paper into? The first factor will, of course, be affordability. Can you pay the article processing charge to put your paper into open access? So why are we thinking open access? Because open access has a lot of benefits. It means your paper is freely available for anyone to read across the globe. More eyeballs on your paper, which means you get more citations, which eventually is required. We'll see why in a while. But this requirement to be more visible, to get more citations, has driven a lot of unscrupulous practices within the open access category. So open access is touted to be much less rigorous when it comes to peer review, which means your paper is not so strictly evaluated when you submit your paper. Most open access publishers tend to publish your paper pretty quickly, but then they also charge you pretty high fees, which does not really correlate with the quality of service that they offer you. And one of the recent interesting cases that happened last year is that of MDPI. So MDPI is a completely open access publisher. Clarivate is the organization that assigns impact factors to different journals. So Clarivate kind of audits the journals to see where they stand, what impact factor they should be receiving last year. And they found that 2 of these MDPI journals, they were publishing way more papers than they should. They were publishing papers in areas where they did not have an expertise at. And also the entire process was pretty short, which is not really possible. So for a decent peer review to happen, I would say there's an average of at least 90 days, because peer reviewers are researchers just like yourself. They don't really have the time to sit and deal with the paper right when they receive it. It's going to take some time. So this, coming back to the story of MDPI, these two journals were stripped of their impact factors. And if you were unfortunate enough to have your papers in these journals, now your papers are, they are nameless, they are homeless now, because they are attached to a journal without an impact factor, which means your paper also does not have an impact factor, doesn't have citations as a consequence, and you have lost a lot of work and energy by having submitted your papers to these journals. Nobody could have expected that this will happen with these journals, but with the lot of things that are going around in publication industry, the onus is on you as authors to check for all these unscrupulous practices as well before you choose a journal. And on the other end, the subscription model journals are not any better. They have their own issues. So this journal called Neuroimage, for instance, it charges more than £2,700 for every single paper. Just convert it into the Indian rupees and you'll be very close to a heart attack, because that is not the kind of amount that researchers from developing countries would be able to afford, causing a huge divide between the developed and developing country researchers, adding to the problem that already exists. So here, interestingly, the entire academic board of the journal, they were pretty angry with the publisher for not reducing the APC. So the entire board walked out of this journal. This was touted as the beginning of a revolution in academic publishing. Unfortunately, we are still waiting for the revolution to happen. So let's talk some metrics. Why are we so interested in publishing in high impact factors? What are these citations? Why are they important? So citation is basically when your paper gets referred to by a different paper that adds to your citation. So Clarivate is the organization that assigns journal impact factors. And a journal impact factor is basically the average citations that one paper receives in a set of years. Right now, the number is 2 years. So in the period of 2 years preceding this year, so say if I'm talking about the impact factor for 2023, in 2021 and 22, what was the average citation that one paper from this particular journal received? That value becomes the impact factor. We're not going to delve into the intricacies, but citations are not only important for journals, they're also important for individual researchers, because all these popular metrics like H-index, ITIN index, which kind of refer to the productivity and the relevance of a researcher, depend on the citations. So H-index is the place where it's the sweet spot between your number of publications and number of citations. So say my H-index is 10, it means that I could have published hundreds of papers, but out of them, only 10 of my papers have reached 10 citations each. So each of these 10 papers have 10 citations, at the least 10 citations. So when I reach that point where 10 of my citations have received at least 10 citations each, my H-index becomes 10. So if I want my H-index to be 20, then at least 20 of my papers should have 20 citations each for me to reach a H-index of 20. So the ITIN index is a bit more simpler, and you can have a H-index of 1. So right when your first paper has the first citations, you will have a H-index. But when it comes to the ITIN index, to reach the ITIN index, you must be a bit seasoned researcher, I would say, should have been in the field for some time, because it's only when your paper reaches at least 10 citations, you can enter into the ITIN index. So it's basically the number of papers with at least 10 citations. So increasing citations is important, yes, but not increasing them through unscrupulous ways is also important. So one way where people tend to increase citations is by a lot of self-citations, cross citations within the group. So say you cite my paper, I cite your paper, or paper citation model, paper publication model. There are like so many, strategies that have been used. Those strategies are wrong, but then promoting your work is not. So it is important that even after you publish your manuscript, you think about promoting it. You make sure that there is a connected history of all your papers. You make sure that you have the same name. You use identifiers like ORCID, for instance, so that all the citations that your paper accrues get added to your profile, to your H index and I10 index. And with the advent of social media, don't shy away from platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn. They are great ways to promote your work as an individual, as a group, as a institution. And we talked about how good papers are basically good stories. And good stories, apart from having good purpose and details, they also have a good structure. And one of the most commonly used structures when it comes to original manuscripts is called the IMRAD structure. So IMRAD stands for Introduction, Materials and Methods, Results and Discussion, but it's not just about the expansion. IMRAD is represented as an R class, and this R class represents the structure of your paper. So when you look at a R class, you will see that it starts broad, narrows down. It has a narrow neck, and then the bottom trapezium starts narrow, and then it widens out into a broader base. So this top trapezium is your introduction. It means that you start with your broadest point. Going back to the example of pancreatic cancer, I start by talking about the incidence of pancreatic cancer in India. And then maybe I'm interested in South India. I'll narrow down my scope into South India, narrow it down further, talking about the available therapies. And then I talk about the research gap. So why are these therapies that are available that are not sufficient? And then I talk about the possible alternatives and I explain my hypothesis. The materials and methods and results are placed in the stem because they derive only from what you did. They talk only about the methods that you used and only the results that you got from your experiments. And the bottom half is the discussion. It's kind of an inversion of introduction where you start narrow. You start talking only about your results, only about your inferences, and then you slowly start to widen out. Start talking about how it relates to the other research in general, and then the significance, limitations, future directions, and so on. So once you design your papers within the IMRAD format, if it works for your field, then it gives a very clear idea for the reader on what to expect. It is a logical order that the reader can follow. I can quickly figure out where to go for my limitations. I can quickly know where I'll find the hypothesis statement. The materials and methods and results correspond. It makes the entire process of reading and understanding pretty easier, I would say. And IMRAD has certain rules. So abstract is not a summary of the results, summary of just your results. Make sure that's a miniature of your entire paper. So introduction has to end with your hypothesis. Materials and methods, you cannot talk about your results. In results, you can have all your figures and tables, but no literature citations. And in discussions, you cannot be talking about your display items like figures and tables when you have a separate results and discussion section, because that has already been dealt with in the results section. And if the abstract is the first impression of your paper, conclusion is the last impression with which the reader leaves your paper. It's the mic drop statement. Never make it an afterthought. Give a very strong concluding statement to your readers. And when it comes to tenses, we were taught in our English classes at least to stick to one tense in a paragraph. But now we start writing scientific manuscripts and we see that the tenses are all over the place. But the simple rule is, if you're talking about something that is published, use the present tense. If you're talking about something that is not yet published, your own work, use the past tense. And if you're talking about the future, obviously the future tense, which means, say, for instance, in the discussion, you'll see you have a mixture of tenses where you talk about things that are published, things you discovered, and also things that could happen in the future. And when it comes to voices, should I use the active voice? Should I use the first person? Should I use the third person? Gone are the days when journals were not accepting of the first voice. Now they are okay. You can start, go ahead and say, we discovered this, I discovered this, we found out this. Though using these introductory phrases are not always necessary, but the result gets assigned to a person depending on the tense, which means you get to choose the active voice, you get to use the first person to present your results. The thumb rule when it comes to tenses and voices is that keep it simple as possible. So how do review papers differ from research papers? So review papers are not based just on data you generated. You try and compile everything that has happened in your field, or most of it that has happened in your field, or those that have happened in certain respects in your field, to enable the researchers to understand, to have a quick overview of what has been happening, because it's pretty difficult to keep track of thousands of papers in each. And each researcher has their own reason why they want to write a review article. But if you're a PhD student, especially, I would say these are some of the good reasons why you should contribute to a review article. So why am I talking about contributing and not writing? Because anyone can write a review article, but getting it accepted by a journal is not always possible, because review articles are conventionally written by more seasoned researchers. You as a PhD scholar might not be that seasoned researcher, but someone on your team is, who happens to be your supervisor. So if you can write a collaborative review article with your supervisor, there's nothing like it. And also remember that journals, not all journals accept review articles. And even with journals who accept review articles, they do not accept unsolicited reviews. So even before you write your review article, you should send an abstract, a summary, the profiles of the different contributing authors to the editorial team. And only when they give a go ahead, you can actually write a review article. If not, even if you have a stunning review article, it might not be accepted by the team. So let's talk about a few of the key things around manuscript writing. The first buzzword in the industry is plagiarism. So plagiarism is blatant copying of content which does not really belong to you. And the interesting part is that plagiarism can be accidental. So how can you accidentally copy content? Or rather, how do I then present content that are in other papers? So there are so many researchers, they have discovered so much. How do I present their work without copying it is the question that you should be asking. So the first, this is like a handy checklist or a flowchart, I would say. So for a content to be not plagiarized, or say if you have a sentence on your manuscript which does not have a citation, then the idea should be yours. The words should also be yours. If the idea is not yours, you cannot claim it to be your sentence. You have to add a citation. If the sentence is not yours, then again, you will have to include a citation. So maybe put your content, each of the sentence or sections, through such a flowchart to understand what plagiarism is. So if you cannot plagiarize, how else do you present work from other authors? There is something called paraphrase. So paraphrasing is when I read the work of an author, I understand it, I summarize it in my own words, and I present it. I just don't present it, but then I also cite the original authors, because in science, you can, of course, stand on the shoulders of giants. Just make sure that you acknowledge you're standing on their shoulders and not on your own. And some of the pointers I would like you to give, I would like to give to you in terms of avoiding plagiarism and paraphrasing is that forget that Control-C, Control-V exists. Okay, never copy paste content, chunks of paragraphs from a paper into your draft manuscript. Always read, present them in your own words in the manuscript, because this is where accidental plagiarism happens. You tend to copy paste content into your manuscript, assuming that you will rewrite them later, but then this rewriting almost never happens. And then when you pass your manuscript through plagiarism checking software like Turnitin or Authenticate, there's a lot of red on your manuscript, which could lead to rejection from the journal. Use your own words and make sure that even when you use your own words, the idea is still not yours. So cite the appropriate references. So patching is something we all like as a craft, as an art, but patching is never a good idea when you are writing. So what is patching or patch writing in academic writing or otherwise is when you read a paper, you pick out a particular paragraph, you don't understand it and reproduce it in your own words, but then you kind of try to avoid detection of plagiarism by rearranging the words, rearranging the ideas, converting sentence structures from, say, active to passive, jumbling up the sentences. So these are not paraphrasing per se. They are called patch writing, and patch writing is also a form of plagiarism. So for something to be considered a true paraphrase, you will have to pick the original idea, just stick to the idea, leave out the words and present them in your own words with minimum overlap with the structure, with the flow, and with the vocabulary of the original text. So always aim for paraphrasing and never get into the trap of patch writing. So a manuscript is not just about the words, it's also about the display items. So you have written a beautiful manuscript, that would not suffice. You will also have to beef it up with the right figures, the right graphs, the right tables. And it is a good practice to provide all the data you have as either supplementary or supporting information. You could also upload it to different databases and then provide a link to those information. And when I was talking about reading papers, I mentioned that for good researchers, just looking at the display items and the data would give the entire picture. They don't even have to get back to reading the text of the paper. So if your reader has to understand your complete work from the display items, you as the author should ensure that every figure has all the necessary information. So each figure should have a figure legend. Figure legend is not just the title, it should explain what has happened in the figure. What experiment is this? What samples are these? What statistical tool did you use? If there are any abbreviations, expand the abbreviations. If you talk about significance, how significant is it? What is the p-value? How reliable it is? Give all the necessary information under the figure legends so that by looking at the figure and the figure legend, I should have an almost complete idea of what you're trying to present on the figure. Same on the tables. Never give very namesake titles to your table. The title has to be self-explanatory of what is presented in the table and also why it is being presented. So tables do not have legends. They have something called notes. Make sure you use this section to add any additional information that will be required to understand the table in its entirety without the readers having to go back into your manuscript. Some of the journals, they not only publish the title and abstract for free, they also publish your display items for free, which means even if your paper is behind a paywall in a subscription journal, you can still give your readers a complete picture and then pull them to read your entire paper, cite them, and complete your work by ensuring that you have put in enough efforts into your display items. So let's then talk about this process called peer review. So peer review is basically review by your peers. You submit a paper, it crosses the editorial desk. If it does not, it's called desk rejection. This mostly happens because you did not match your manuscript correctly to the aims and scope. You did not format your manuscript correctly, or the language is so bad that it is not understandable. Normally, journals do not reject manuscripts for language, but rather they would send it back to you asking you to do a thorough revision before you get back. And then it goes to what are called the peer reviewers. And these are basically researchers who are working in the same field as you are. They are across the globe elsewhere. And peer review is not always an easy process. And these peer reviewers come up with what are known as your peer reviewer comments, and addressing them sufficiently is what ensures that your paper gets published. So your writing prowess, your research prowess does not end with submitting the initial draft, but rather braving through these reviewer responses and taking this journey to completion is what will help you get your manuscript published. And anytime you receive your responses from the reviewers, my first advice to my clients, to my students and otherwise is assume good intentions. We all know of the famed reviewer 2 in academia who tends to have the goal of putting you down. But let's not always assume all reviewers there are reviewer 2s. Let's assume good intent. Let us look at them as people on our team helping us, or rather guiding us to do our research in a better way, present our research in a better way. And when you're responding to these reviewer comments, remember that they do not know the entire picture. And sometimes there is a communication gap even, or they have the expertise to know that you are lacking something on your manuscript. So always be polite. Never take any of these suggestions too personally, and give detailed explanations. It is not sufficient that you just make revisions and then you add responses like, thank you, I have made the revision. Thank you, we have made the addition. That is not sufficient. Your response letter is the place or the opportunity where you get to communicate with your reviewers. And there are also instances where good communication between the author and reviewers has bloomed into a lifelong collaboration. So these reviewers could also be your future collaborators. They could be your future PIs. So look at them as such, not as competitors, not as people there to put you down. And things you cannot really do is you cannot deny the reviewers or the editors your raw data. That's the most important thing you should be remembering. Make sure that when you publish a result, the onus is on you to have all the data. Say you are a supervisor, you have 4 students working on the paper, and 2 of the students are no longer in the lab. Even then, the responsibility is on you to have collected the raw data from these 2 students before they left, to ensure that you have them and you can present them to the reviewer and the editor if they ask for it. You can deny providing data only if it is too sensitive data. Say you are working in something of national security, for instance, or you're working on something to do with crime scenes, confidentiality, and so on. Or say you want to apply for a patent on a methodology, you're not able to reveal the data, then that is valid reason. But in all other cases, you will have to give your data when it is asked for. And remember to be always polite, always be detailed, and make their life easier. If you make a revision, indicate it, maybe highlight it, change the font color, indicate the page numbers and line numbers in your response letter so that their life is easier, which in turn makes your life much easier. And formal manuscript publication and journal publication is not the only way through which you can communicate your science. There's a whole new field called science communication, where you try and take your science to the general public. The general public is not just people you meet on the road, but these are people who will sit on your committees, who will sit on your grant application vetting groups. So these people, they are experts, because when someone is screening your grant, they are of course an expert, but just that they're not an expert in your own field, which means you will have to learn the art of communicating your science, communicating the impact of your science in a way that they are able to understand, appreciate, and sign off on that grant application so that you have the money to go ahead with your research. And say you are working in areas which could bring about changes in public policy, for instance, then your science has to reach the bureaucrats, it has to reach the politicians. You are working with, say, you're working for the benefit of a particular ethnic group. If you cannot communicate your science in the local language that the group can actually understand, what is the point in doing the research? So there are much more nuances than just getting it published into high impact journals. So think through them. Think about podcasts, think about social dramas, think about all the different creative ways in which you can take science to your community at the end of the day, because I believe impact over impact factor. So think on those lines. And we cannot end a session on end any session nowadays without slightly touching upon the role of artificial intelligence, thanks to ChatGPT. So I'll just answer 2 questions, because that's talking about AI in scientific writing is a whole section session in itself. So can I use AI tools in my scientific writing and publishing process? Yes, you can use it, as long as you use it ethically, when you look at it as your assistant, as your add-on, and not as a replacement to the researcher or writer in it. Do journals, do institutions accept the use of AI? Journals are still coming up with guidelines, though there are declaration statements across publishers where you are required to disclose any use of AI. Institutions are still working on their policies, I would say. So make sure that when you're using AI, or even before you think about using AI, acclimatize or know the rules and regulations of the journal. You know what the institutions are up for, what they allow, what they don't allow before you use AI. And if you're interested on a conversation on how AI is transforming academic publication, I have a talk with RX doctors tomorrow. So this is a pre-conference workshop, which I'm requesting them to open up to the general public so that anyone can attend, because I feel it's an important conversation which has to go beyond the conference participants. So if I get the go ahead, then I'll be very happy to share the meeting link. I'll maybe do it to Dr. Pankaj, and she can share it with all of you. Please join tomorrow evening if you're interested in this conversation. We also have a 10-day online workshop on AI-assisted manuscript writing, where we'll talk about manuscript writing, but also we'll be talking about AI tools for different parts of the manuscript writing. There again, you can reach out to us for more details. So I would like to leave you all with this thought, because 10:30 I was supposed to wind up. So I would say you could be a great researcher, you could be a great writer, but publication is more about discipline. So if you are disciplined right from day one in making sure you have the best drafts over a period of time, and you choose the right places to publish, you choose the right people to collaborate with, publish, and with the right intentions, then don't worry about a few pitfalls, about a few setbacks. You will find your way. Remember the story of Carico. Without publications, without grants, she ended up getting a Nobel Prize. We never know. So intentions really matter. And this is where you can reach me. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. The QR code there will lead you to my LinkedIn page, where you'll find me writing almost every other day on different aspects of scientific writing and publishing. I also introduce different AI tools which you can use for your writing purposes. And I'm not good with calls most of the days, but then you can always reach me on WhatsApp. And if you're looking for manuscript editing services or grant editing services, write to us at the mail ID and we'll take it up from there. So thank you for your patience. I would be very happy to take questions. Let me just jump back to the Teams window.
Thank you, Soumya ma'am, and I would really request all the participants, please put your questions in the chat box. That will be easy because there are many on the online. So start putting up your queries and the questions for Soumya ma'am, and also ensure that you are filling up the attendance survey. Link is there actually as a part of the feedback. So please ensure that you are filling it up to ensure that you are there in the session 1.
So
Audience?
I have put up a feedback form here where I have specific questions to understand what the audience are looking for in future sessions. So what would you like us to talk more? So maybe, yeah, it will be great if you can submit the form as well. So let me go up and check for questions. There are a lot of comments, but yeah, I'll see if I can find out questions there.
I think some of them are raising hands. Maybe I'll go and just check.
Yeah, sure. That'll work.
There, 1 second. Jyoti T, you are there? Ayushi Pandey? Okay. Ambika ma'am, I think you have raised your hand. You have a question. Let me start taking it up because someone is asking, suggest some authentic website for plagiarism check.
Okay, so plagiarism check is a very, very tricky thing, I would say, because there are stories where, institutions went in for the cheaper versions of software like Authenticate or Turnitin, for instance, and then the data was stolen. The entire papers were stolen and published elsewhere. So hearing these stories, I'm a bit apprehensive. So I would say go for institutional accounts. get help from your friends, from your fellow faculty or PhD scholars to put your papers only through proper authenticated Turnitin Authenticate tools. But then if you are looking for a cheaper option, I would say look for Trinka. Yeah, so let me just type it out there. So Trinka is a tool, it's an AI tool which has it's a site, it's a whole company which works across different tools, and some of their packages have Authenticate and Turnitin as a part of their packages, where you'll be allowed to go for the plagiarism check a few times, say 4 times, 5 times in a month, and then they have some credit points or so. So Trinka is a nice place where you can check it out. PaperPal also has the plagiarism check option, but then that will be a part of the pro version. Okay, so I have questions coming in. I think I answered the plagiarism
Okay.
one.
Yeah, there is one question from Dr. Ambika N. This is regarding hybrid research. What extent should I know to start with a problem like environment sustainability and automation?
I think I did not get the question. Can you please repeat the question, Dr. Pankaj?
Yeah, this is regarding hybrid research. What extent should I know to start with a problem like environment sustainability and automation?
We got half of the question, but with what I heard, if I can answer, I would say you will have to keep reading. So when you are looking for research questions, there are two broad ways in which you can identify a problem. So the first is through your personal experiences, through what you see in your environment. So say I had a team member in my NSR cell days who were, it's called upcycling. So her venture is called upcycling, and they work with waste fabric. So she sees that there's a lot of waste fabric from all these tailoring units. They think, why not we upcycle these waste units into something sustainable in bags, in different forms, art forms, and so on. So that is one way in which you can start looking at a problem, start looking at a practical problem, and then come up with possible practical solutions that no one else has. The second place where you can look for research questions is, as I mentioned, the limitations section of different research papers. So start with good 10 review articles, I would say, because review articles, they also point out to the research gaps. Look up for the recent 10 review articles, look up research gaps, and then start reading the research papers as well to ensure that no one else is already addressing this particular research gap. And also go into conference papers, because research papers are written only after the work is completed, whereas conference papers give you a lot of preliminary results. It gives you a window into what different people are working at the moment. And based on that, you can choose a research question for yourself. I hope that answer was relevant. I hope that's what you have been asking for. Yeah, because we
All right.
lost the.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's one more question from Dr. Ayappan M. He's mentioning, ma'am, today most of the research people publish various research from time to time through consultancy. Thus, they publish studies on subjects that are not relevant to them. How can this be detected?
It is very difficult to detect unless institutions set up their own internal committees to check on what their faculty are publishing, or sometimes say, for instance, with what happened with MDPA, for instance, where Clarivate was able to figure out that these two journals in MDPA were publishing way too many papers in fields they had no relevance at all. So it is very difficult to screen through and find out what is original research and what has been published without any concrete data at all. But one indicator I would say is to look for the profile of the researcher. How long have they been doing what they are doing? Look for their other papers. If they have a consistent footprint in this particular research area, then it's highly likely that this paper is also a legitimate paper. But then say some researcher pops out of nowhere and comes up with tall claims in one of their papers, then I would be a bit doubtful of whatever they claim.
Sure. So there's another set of question, ma'am. Is there a fixed similarity percentage that one should keep in mind for research papers, for example, below 10%, or does it keep varying with different journals?
Yes, it does vary with journals. It does vary with the conference organizers. If you're talking about conference papers, 10% is a good number. So normally, we personally advise our clients to keep it under 7%. To be on the safer side, because even when you use Turnitin, there are a lot many settings, there are a lot many thresholds which can change from one user to the other. So if you use the stringent setting, then what is 7% for you must be 17% for the journal, though they don't use the most stringent settings always. So I would say go for a good tool like Turnitin or Authenticate with the average settings and aim for 7 to 10%. That should be a good start.
Sure. So, ma'am, some of them are checking on some 2-3 tips to write the proposal format. So, if you can give your top 3 suggestions.
For grant proposals. Okay. So for grant proposals, I would say novelty. Of course, novelty is everything. But then also, if you are moving into a different field, in a field where you don't have publications, then always look for collaborators. Always look for co-PIs, because the grant is granted not just because you have a brilliant idea, but because you have already established some amount of credibility in a particular area. So come up with a novel idea, but then also make sure that you have the necessary expertise on the PI team to back up your claims, and thoroughly research the grant agency. Because sometimes the grant agency does not outright tell you what they are interested in at this particular moment in time, but maybe call up the grant manager, the managing team, and understand if they want to really fund your particular research area. Just like how we were meticulous in matching our manuscript to the aims and scope of the journal, you should also be meticulously matching your grant proposal with the interests of the grant agency if you want to win a grant. So novelty, good PI team, and a good match with the grant agency requirements would be my top 3 to win a grant.
Sure. So we'll take last 3 questions because I can say questions are flowing, I think. Okay. All right. Could you suggest any AI tool for paper writing? Is it acceptable for publication?
Yeah, I would suggest Trinka, Paperpal, Quillbot. These are, I'll just type it out. I've already typed out. So Paperpal is from the company that I work for, Cactus Communications. And Trinka is one of our close competitors. And Quillbot is one of the tools that is very much used. So it is one of the most used tools. I think it is the tool which has the third largest footfall when it comes to AI tools in writing. So you could use these 3 tools, try them out. Paperpal also has this nice Gen AI feature right now where, just like ChatGPT, Paperpal can start filling in your sentences. So you write one sentence, the Paperpal Copilot will suggest how you can take that idea forward, or if there are problems with language in your sentence, it helps you correct those sentences. It helps you add citations. There are tools like Jenny, for instance. Yeah,
Sure.
AI is a topic. It's a rabbit hole, so that will take hours to talk about. So I'm not going into it.
Yeah, sure. So I think this one question is from one of the PhD scholar. What is the difference between NAAS and impact factor?
Okay, so NAS is not really applicable to all fields. So NAS rating works for journals with some fields, and impact factor is something that is completely controlled by Clarivate, I would say. So similarly, like, when we talk about Scopus, you have different quartiles. Similarly, NAS is one of the ratings, one of the ways in which you can classify your journals. But impact factor is kind of a concrete metric. It's a concrete number that is assigned by Clarivate year over year based on how good the papers in the particular journal did in terms of visibility, majorly in terms of citations over the past 2 years. So they are 2 different metrics. And depending on what your university is looking for, because some of them want you to have a NAS rating of 6 or so, if I remember the scale right. So look for your university guidelines, because most of the universities, they don't tell you have to publish in a journal with so much impact factor. They tell you it should have an AS rating of so and so. It should be on the quartile 2 or quartile 3 of Scopus. It should be on Q3 of UGC CAD list. So look for what your university or institution is looking for. Impact factor normally does not come into this conversation at all.
Sure. Ma'am, there's a set of questions. I will leave it to you if you really wish to answer. Someone from the agriculture domain. Can you please suggest any impact journal related to agriculture which are publishing free, and any specific areas which can be considered for the research in agriculture? So I will wish, I'll leave it to your choice.
That's a very, very broad question. Normally, I can give you some pointers. So you can only choose a journal after you have your manuscript ready. Because as I mentioned, the first non-negotiable is that your manuscript and the aims and scope of the journal should have a perfect match. There's no point in choosing a journal just because it's free, and or rather just because it has a good impact factor. You will have a high chance of your manuscript being rejected. So start from having a rough abstract, and then use the manuscript tools that, the journal selection tools that I provided. If not, you can also just go into the Scopus site and search for the keyword agriculture. You will have a lot many journals, and the journal webpage will tell you if it is an open access journal or a subscription based journal. So go to the About the Journal page. Most of these journals call it that, and go to the About page where they'll tell you the model of publication. Do they go for open access, or are they subscription based, or do they follow a hybrid model where the author is allowed to choose between open access and subscription once the paper gets accepted? So this is quite a vast topic, but I think within the time constraints, these are my pointers.
Sure. So I will try to again sum up as last 2-3 questions, because the questions are flowing like anything. Articles are rejected with a comment and have issues with methodology without pointing out what issues. Also point out doubt with result. Should we not reply? What's your comment?
So I would say, if the journal says your manuscript is rejected, then do not reply, because your manuscript will not be reconsidered. But if it is just a comment, then your first thing you do is try to fill in those gaps. See if you can kind of slightly tweak your methodology to make it more robust, and also make sure that you add new results that the reviewers are looking for. You need not attend to every fancy of a reviewer, but then when they have a legitimate question, legitimate requirement, it is only good on your part to actually add more research, add more methods, and then reply back to them. No matter if you get, we have handled response letters that have run to 40 pages. And then the manuscript was accepted. So 4 reviewers, 5 reviewers. I have even seen up to 7 reviewers. So each round they bring in new reviewers. And by the end of round 4, we had like 7 different reviewers. And the entire response letter ran into 35-40 pages. Never be intimidated by the amount of questions. As long as the journal does not say your manuscript is rejected, it is not rejected. You still have a chance to convince the editorial board and the reviewers to publish your manuscript. So always submit a response letter. Never let it go like that.
Sure. So what are some good research journals that can be used to publish? How to search? Please explain about acceptance, publication rate, and also about fake journals. So I believe you have covered that during your conversation.
Go to Scopus. I would say go to Scopus, go to any of these indexing sites. They will give you the right links to the legitimate journal sites. And once you go to the About the Journal page, they'll tell you their publication model. They tell you the APCs. They'll give you the impact factor they have. They'll also list out all the different indexes. So your questions will be answered if you go to the journal page of your interest.
Sure. So should you suggest research manuscripts publishing them as preprints while submitting them to a journal?
No, my personal opinion is no, because it is okay to send the preprints or publish preprints after acceptance, not before acceptance, because we have personally seen cases where authors went in to publish the preprints before acceptance, and their paper was not accepted by the particular journal. They were not able to remove the preprint for several months, which means they cannot submit their manuscript for consideration to a second journal. So I would say you can make the preprint accessible or publish the preprints after you get acceptance from a journal, but never before you get the acceptance.
Sure. So, ma'am, I will take as the last question for today because I
Okay.
know we can keep on discussing. This is an unlimited, area where we can discuss many. How can we identify which journal one is fake, which journal is original? That's the last question for today.
Okay. So if you want to identify predatory or clone journals, or rather if you want to avoid them, I would say go to the publisher site. So Elsevier has thousands of journals. Nature has thousands of journals. Go to the Nature site, go to the Springer site, Elsevier site, and search for your journal of interest within the publisher site, and then follow the link from the publisher site. Or go to an indexing site or very reputed indexing sites like Scopus or SkyMago or Web of Science, and then type in your journal of interest and follow the journal link from these indexing sites. That's the safest way to ensure that you land on the legitimate journal webpage and not on a cloned webpage.
Sure. So, audience, participants, I would request you can write it to ma'am also. She has already shared her LinkedIn profile link on the chat box. Otherwise, after the session, I will also try to share the information about Soumya ma'am. And whichever the questions and the vast areas you wanted to learn, we will definitely plan out some more sessions like this. So, Dr. Soumya ma'am, thank you very much. You have been very polite and very committed to, be online, and we have been working from last couple of weeks with you and understanding. And today also you were very, very encouraging to the participants to answering like, anything. I really appreciate. And thank you very much from both the institutions, St. Francis College as well as the Jyoti Nivas College. And from all of us, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of you. Have a nice weekend.
Sure. So now I would request Dr. Rima, I would give it back to you so that you can continue with your session.
And Dr. Soumya. It was an excellent session actually, and I'm sure that most of our students and researchers and even academicians who have joined for this session will benefit from it. We will now move on to the second session. The resource person for the second session of the FDP on research and innovation is Ms. Buella Parivalan. After her master's in biotechnology, she worked as a senior research fellow in the Department of Plant Pathology at the University of Agricultural Sciences, GKVK, and later was a principal investigator with BIRAC's Biotechnology Ignition Grant, and she has several publications under her belt. Presently, she is the founder and CEO of Dendrite Laboratories Private Limited, which is incubated at the Agricultural Innovation Center at the University of Agricultural Sciences, GKVK. We are honored to have you address us today, ma'am. Thank you for obliging. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes. Yeah, you are audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Thank you. Yes. I'll share my screen now, ma'am.
Yes.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, you can say.
Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, 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 ma'am. We are able to see.
Okay. Thank you so much for this amazing introduction. So I attended the first session and it was an amazing one. I hope all the students and researchers had benefited from it. So good morning to everyone. My name is Beulah, founder and CEO of Dendrite Laboratories Private Limited. We are a startup company focusing on developing low-cost, rapid and accurate diagnostic tool for the detection of plant pathogens. We are using the technology called as a LAMP assay. You might have heard about it during the COVID time. So currently we are incubated at Agri Innovation Center, University of Agricultural Sciences, GKVK, with CCAMP being our big partner. So before beginning, I would like to thank the organizers for providing me with such an amazing opportunity to share my knowledge and experience. Also, thank you for all the participants for taking their time out. Of course, this is a second session, so I appreciate all your patience. So I hope everyone here today has at least one takeaway from this particular session. So coming to today's talk, we will be focusing on importance of innovation and entrepreneurship in today's dynamic environment. So before moving ahead, I would like to tell you all that we will not be discussing any heavy jargons or any textbook definitions here. Rather, we will be focusing on simply understanding how innovation and entrepreneurship plays an important role in our day-to-day lives. So agenda for today's sessions. So in today's session, we will be, I'm sorry, is there any problem with the screen?
There is no problem in the screen. You can switch on your video if you'd like to switch on. You can see also.
I guess the internet connection will be weak, ma'am. I guess this screen will be enough for it.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So in today's session, we will be understanding what exactly innovation and entrepreneurship means, what is its importance, and we will also try to understand what exactly an entrepreneur's mindset looks like, and what are their skill set, what do they come with. And we will, once we understand all of these collectively, we will try to draft and understand our own innovations. Okay. So once here, I would like to request all the participants over here today, present here today, to take part in a small exercise at the end of the session where we will be identifying your own innovations, like what is your field of innovation, what is your expertise, and what is your passion, and how that passion could be put into your research or even in the entrepreneur journey as well. So finally, there will be at least 3 bonus points at the end of this presentation, and also a day to everybody that we will be discussing in the final slide. So let us begin. So to give a small introduction about myself, so I started my research journey as a project assistant right after my master's at IASC. So it was in the MCB department, molecular and cell biology department. That is where I learned. I just saw people passionately working in the lab. So that is where I just saw them and I understood that there is something that these people are so much interested in. So I just saw and observed these people. But literally, when I could put the knowledge that I learned from IIC was at GKVK, where I worked as a research fellow. So here I understood that there are certain aspects of a research person and how we can work in the lab and how it can be benefited in the society. Since this was an agricultural university, I started working with various technologies, various molecular biological technologies. So that is where the entrepreneurial journey kicked in. And I started to think that when I'm doing it in the lab, why cannot I give it to other people to try? Why cannot I make their lives easier? That is where the entrepreneurial journey started. And that is when I started working upon, initiated the startup called as Dendrite Laboratories Private Limited. So here we directly started with applying for grants, applying for funds with venture capitalists and everybody. So I'll tell you the story about how I got my very first grant in the coming slides. So coming to the topic itself. So here we are going to discuss about the innovation and entrepreneurship. So you will be hearing me telling a lot of the words of entrepreneurship and innovation as well. So first, let us understand what innovation is and what is its importance. So very simply, we'll just try to understand what is innovation first before jumping into the entrepreneurship. Now, innovation is like finding something new, something better to do things. Okay, it is when people come up with fresh ideas, inventions, or improvements that makes their lives easier and also maybe interesting as well. So whether maybe, for example, a new gadget, a clever solution to solve a problem, or a creative way of doing something innovative. It is all about making world a bit smarter and bit cooler, and also even maybe like improving something, that is something like enhancing of this particular existing technology also includes here. So imagine you have a problem like how to carry a lot of books, like without, you see the school students and everybody, without your bag getting too heavy, right? Innovation is when someone thinks up a cool idea like a backup with wheels to solve the problem, right? It's like coming up with smart ideas and new ways actually to make our life and others' lives better. That means we are having a societal impact over here. Whether it's a new toy or a tasty snack or even a game-changing invention, uh, innovation is about making things more awesome. So whatever it is already there, we are just trying to make it more awesome here. Now, let us consider in agriculture itself, because that is where I started working with. So innovation in life sciences here could be like, when the scientists create new type of seeds that grow into the plants, which are, more resistant to pests or need less water to survive. Okay, it is like finding smarter ways actually to grow more food like that can take care of the environment as well. So which is even eco-friendly also. Right. So let's take another example like an healthcare department. So in the innovation again, researchers might develop personalized medicines where treatments are tailored to an individual specific genetic makeup. So this can make medicine and treatments to the patients more effective and lesser side effects also. So these can be like it's creating medicines that just works for you. So they're just taking up the understanding your genetic makeup and creating something like this. Isn't that amazing? If we do something like that, we actually achieve something like that. Now, innovation in entrepreneurship. So who is an entrepreneur here? Innovation is like coming up now, whatever we spoke about innovation, it is just like making something new or improving something which is already present in our environment, right? But what is an entrepreneurship is like turning those amazing ideas into real businesses that people can actually enjoy. It is not just in the laboratory, it is not just in your thoughts, you're just giving out to the society as well. Together they are like the dream team that creates cool stuffs and makes the world more interesting rather. So imagine if you have a smart idea, like a super cool toy or maybe a gadget as well. Like technology is taking over the world right now, so maybe a cool gadget. That's innovation, thinking up a new exciting existing things. Now, entrepreneurship is like that idea can be turned into a real product that people can buy and use. It involves figuring out how to make it, telling people about it, getting investors from there, and even starting a new business around it. That is very exciting, right? So, innovation is like awesome idea, and entrepreneurship is like making it happen in the real world, in the actual present world. We are going to actually take up the idea, use it, try it, validate it, and give it to people to use it. And we are creating business world around it. So together, both form a powerful duo here. So innovation provides both imaginative fuel. So, for example, understand that innovation is a fuel. Now, entrepreneurship is the engine that drives it, from ideas to maybe the imaginations to the marketplace, creating value for both. Who's innovating? That means the innovator is also getting benefited over here, and even the customer is also getting benefited because we are improving something. That means the maybe a simple thing like something a person is using, he's using it in a very faster way. That means his time is also getting saved. So it is helping both the innovator and the consumer as well. So it is a cycle of creating a meeting practicality to make positive changes in the real time world. So now we have understood what exactly is innovation and an entrepreneurship. So now we will see who is an entrepreneur. Now imagine in your mind, you are an entrepreneur. Now, who are you? What are the skill set that you need to be an entrepreneur? Now, everything is not going to come up in the one go, right? You're going to achieve it over the time. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from those mistakes. So we'll understand who is exactly an entrepreneur. So according to me, an entrepreneur is someone who sees the potential in everything. And he doesn't see a problem as a problem. He sees that as an opportunity over here. So he sees the potential in an innovative idea and takes steps to make it easily available as a product or a service that people can enjoy. So entrepreneurship is not only selling products, it's even selling the service as well that people can actually enjoy. This involves like tasks like creating business plan, gathering sources, finding the right people to help. Like team building plays a huge role over here, because a single person, it is very difficult for a single person to actually achieve that particular target. And bringing the product to the market, like for example, lab to market right now is a huge deal, or lab to field, if we speak about agriculture, is also a huge deal. Now we have understood who is an entrepreneur. Now we have understood innovation. We have understood who is an entrepreneur. Now we will see what goes inside an entrepreneur's mindset. Okay, what are the things that an entrepreneur actually requires to be an entrepreneur? Now these are some of the points which I feel like that is applicable for the entrepreneur, which has helped me personally in my journey. So as an entrepreneur thinks and acts in a very unique way. So they're not like comfortable taking risk. They're very comfortable. They're very easygoing. They're very they're ready to fail. For example, solving problems, they solve it very creatively and they bounce back from challenges. They don't sit around when they are failing at something. So they have clear goals. They stay confident. They actually adapt to changes very easily and always aim for success actually. So it is like having a special mindset that helps them to do well in the business world as well. So these are the top three mindset of an entrepreneur which helped me. So we'll go one by one through this. So first one is adaptability and flexibility. So in this dynamic environment, in today's world where digital and AI is taking over, and where this change is always constant for an entrepreneur, it should be easier for them to adapt to new circumstances and even pivot when necessary and stay flexible in the face of uncertainty. The ability to adjust business strategies, product offerings, or operational processes in response to the market as well must be unexpected challenges should also be addressed very easily for them. Second is a decision making. So they're constantly, entrepreneurs in everyday life, they're constantly faced with decisions that can significantly impact their business. The ability to make informed and timely decisions is very much important here, which can include maybe assessing through the risks. They have to analyze for everything. They need to analyze pros and cons and having the confidence to make the toughest choices over here. So decision making skills comes through experience. You're not just born with it, or overnight you don't gain the experience. Like you cannot just wake up and say, I'm an entrepreneur, I'll be very good at decision making. No, you have to make certain multiple errors, multiple failures in order to achieve that particular skill. So decision making skill comes through experience. So critical thinking and even major like willingness to learn from both. So it is not the decision making is coming only from successes. Majorly decision making skill which I have done came from the failures. Okay, so finally we have something called as networking and relationship building. So building a network of contacts and maybe maintaining positive relationships also with the, you have to maintain a positive relationship with people whomever you meet, be it even stakeholders or customers or suppliers. You have to have that kind of a rapport with them so that you communicate and make them understand your aim, your mission and vision as well. Then networking actually provides opportunities majorly for collaborations. So in today's life, there's always a collaboration necessity, because if I am a molecular biologist, my technology would be waste without an application. Now where am I applying my molecular biology technologies here? On agricultural field. Where is the agricultural field here? where the plants have diseases, I'm telling them that I will design something that can easily detect the particular pathogen, particular disease. So always the collaboration matters a lot over here. That is where the networking and relationship building plays an important role. So being an entrepreneur is like, this is what I usually talk about. So it's like having a mix of everything. So entrepreneurs are adventurous, they're problem solving wizards. They are even superheroes also. They are like treasure hunters sometimes, they're chameleons, and they are like goalkeepers. And my favorite thing is a lifelong student, because you never stop learning over here. And they are even a social butterfly. Even if you are an introvert, you have to push yourself to be a social butterfly over here, and a bit of a magician all rolled into one. So this is what an exact mindset of an entrepreneur is actually showcasing. Now, so we have understood the skill set, mindset of an entrepreneur. Now we'll see why is we have just spoken about innovation and entrepreneurship in a separate aspect. Now we will combine together how innovation plays a role in entrepreneurship. So this is going to be very interesting concept here. How important is on innovation in entrepreneurship? It is like a special sauce that makes businesses exciting and successful here. So it helps them come up with cool ideas, problem solving abilities, and they always are staying ahead of the competition in the market or with the other companies as well. So without any innovation, businesses might miss out on making things better and more interesting people for that people. So we will see few topics over here, which would under which we would be able to understand the importance of innovation and entrepreneurship here. First one is economic growth. So these are like, there are some 9 points over here. These are very interesting. If you are interested in entrepreneurship, these pointers will give you a good insight inside of an entrepreneurship journey. So first one is economic growth. So innovation and entrepreneurship are fundamental to these economic development. They lead to creation of new products, new services. For example, if we are in this country, how much of an economic growth is provided depends upon the supplies, depends upon the commodities. So that is what we are learning here in the economic growth. So entrepreneurs can actually identify these unmet needs, the problem, the gap, research gap, or anything that they can identify. For that, they develop these innovative solutions, contributing to the growth of GDP and job creations. So we know about the job creation over here. Entrepreneurial ventures and innovative businesses generate enormous amount of employment opportunity over here. Now, for example, we all have a app called as Swiggy, correct? We all have it on our phone. We all use it day to day life. So maybe, for example, the food delivery service, that is a Swiggy, has created jobs by hiring people to deliver food. Simple things, right? But they have identified that research gap. They have identified the unmet need of the society over there. So these jobs are very flexible and allows the individuals to work whenever they want, providing income opportunities in enormous cities. Not only in Bangalore, there are other cities that these people are working right now. That means they have created job opportunity. For example, again, similar to Swiggy, we have something called as Zomato. So this is another popular Indian startup in the food delivery system. And also it also actually discovers restaurant discovery spaces, something called as a restaurant discovery space, which is an important role in job creation by establishing a platform that connects users and the local restaurants for food delivery. Through their extensive network of delivery partners and maybe for the restaurant partners, Zomato has provided numerous job opportunities, particularly in the gig economy, allowing individuals to learn income by delivering food. This approach not only supports local business, but also actually, it is flexible for the employment opportunities in cities for the individuals, because they take up as a part-time job. Some people take it as a full-time job itself. So as new industries emerge and existing ones evolve, these create a demand for a diverse range of skills actually, leading to job creation and more dynamic labor market. Coming to technological advancements, these innovation drives technological process, because technology changes or I can say upgrades day-to-day life. Entrepreneurs and innovative companies are at the forefront of developing new technologies that actually enhance the productivity, also improves the efficiency. They always look in enhancing the efficiency and transform the industries. This in turn actually leads to improvements in the quality of life and the ability to actually solve the problems very easily. Because whatever the digital world that we are seeing today, be it attending this particular session also online, that is making our lives much more easier and much more efficient as well, and reaching to so many people across. Coming to the next set of pointers, so we can see the competitiveness. So maybe the nations or even companies that foster these kind of innovation and entrepreneurship are better positioned in a global aspect. So this ability to adapt changing market conditions, adapt to new technologies, create USPs, that is uh, unique selling points, stay competitive in a rapid world, because you always use your novelty. So as in the first session, we learned that the first thing that in a research that we require is novelty. So even in entrepreneurship, this plays a very huge role. Actually, the first two pointers here plays a huge role, because the USP, the novelty of the technology matters a lot, and how we are going to help the society also in turn helps the entrepreneur as a innovator over here. So many innovations may have like profound impacts on society. They can address like, pressing challenges. They will improve healthcare for the people. They enhance education sometimes. They contribute to sustainable development, eco-friendly developments. So social entrepreneurship in particular focuses on creating positive social and environmental change. So the last point here is the catalyst for change. So here we can see the entrepreneurship often challenges the status of queue and brings about like disruptive changes. Like every time the market is disrupting, the competition is increasing. So there's a lot of change that you see as an entrepreneur over here. Now, I hope I'm audible right now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. So coming to the further pointers, these are the last 3 points where we will understand the importance of innovation in entrepreneurship. So the financial prosperity. So end of the day, all of this is coming out because we want to be financially independent, correct? So money is what that is coming in the end. As an entrepreneur, you need not just be like very like, not for profit kind of a thing or anything, but financially we need to be very independent so that we support ourselves and we support the team that we are hiring. So that is where the financial prosperity comes into picture. So successful entrepreneurship can lead to financial success for individuals and the economy as a whole, even the whole entire nation, because there are a lot of GDPs, there are a lot of like biotech industries that is growing right now. It actually provides a platform for wealth creation, which can be circulated into the economy and can actually stimulate further innovation and economic growth. So secondly, it is also encourage the creativity, because we are always growing. So we need not have the same technology we had 10 years back. So innovation and entrepreneurship encourage creativity and a culture of continuous improvement. We are improving every day. We have to keep on like how we have learned in the first session about literature review, because we have to take up like every day you take up one research paper, download it, take the hard copy, write down all the important points. So that is how you keep up to date with the research. So this culture actually entertains an environment where individuals and organizations are motivated to explore new ideas, and it allows us to take risk and think outside the box, correct? Now finally coming to the global problem solving. So many of the world's challenges like climate changes, there's healthcare and there's poverty. Now we require innovative solutions to address these kind of problems. So here entrepreneurship plays a key role in identifying and implementing these solutions, contributing to a global problem solving efforts. So in short, coming up with new ideas and businesses not only helps the economy and technology grow, but also lets people and communities do well and make good changes in the world that is always changing. Okay. So we have understood the mindset. We had entered the mind of an entrepreneur. We had seen what is the mindset that the entrepreneur is having and why that mindset is important also we have seen. Now let us understand what are the skills to be an entrepreneur. Now, for example, say that you want to be an entrepreneur. One of the people, now you want to be an entrepreneur. What are the skills that you need to acquire to be an entrepreneur? So this is not an easy job. If you say that I don't want to work 9 to 5, I want to be an entrepreneur. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to work 24 into 7. And there's no boss over here. There's not somebody is going to come and tell you to be in the office at 9 o'clock or complete this work by the deadline given. So this is like you are the boss here. So you have to wake up, you have to push. The first thing here is the discipline here. So it is very difficult, very complex, but if you have the passion to do it, anybody can do it. So entrepreneur skills are like tools, actually. Whatever skills they have, it is like tools. They help, turn ideas into reality. They make like smarter choices. They tackle problems. After all this also they fail, but that is a different story. So playing a key role in building and growing successful business, that is what they focus on. Now, first point. So we'll go point by point here. Effective communication. Now, it is expressing your ideas clearly. Now, if I have an idea, I keep it to myself. I don't speak about it to anybody. The idea is not going to die. The idea is going to be into somebody else's mind, and they're going to launch it eventually. So this is what communication plays an important role. So we have to actually avoid heavy jargons here while actively listening to thoughtfully responding to others. It also involves adapting one's communication style as well, like for different audiences and possessing strong writing skills as well. Communication is not only about talking, it is even how you write an email, how you write a letter, and how you write even a proposal also. So you need money. You need money to take up your startup to the next level. So you have to write proposals, you have to get grants. So in all these aspects, communication plays an important role over here. And the ability to adapt communication styles based on the audience. So you need not talk in a high class English to everybody. You need not talk a low class English to everybody, right? So you need to understand your audience and master that skill, like for enhancing proper proficiency in essential skills. So these are the effective communication skills that you need as an entrepreneur. Now the second point is networking. Now you know how to communicate. You as an entrepreneur, if you have that imagination that you are an aspiring entrepreneur, first thing is like communication. Now communication you have started to master. Next is the networking. So you need to talk to people. You need to talk to people about your idea. You need to talk to people. Sometimes you can even talk to people about, like various other things, like, just not particularly. If I am from a life science background, I have to speak to somebody from commerce as well, so that I get an idea about what is exactly going on in the world and how, because we cannot go in a narrow way. We have to broaden our aspects here. So networking involves building and sustaining professional relationships through active engagement, include maybe attending industry events also, utilizing social media for connection, because nowadays we all are roaming around with phones. We are using constantly, having a higher screen time every day. So why not use it for a betterment of our lives? So effective network encompasses the ongoing cultivation of professional connections, active participation in industry events to broaden one cycle, collaborators, and even practice of reciprocity also. Next, we need to have the financial literacy. So we have understood communication and networking, but now if you get the money in your hand, you need to understand what you exactly do with it, correct? So financial literacy actually involves acquiring a foundational understanding of key financial concepts, skillfully planning and managing budgets, or maybe interpreting financial statements for informed decision making, and applying these particular decision making skills to, make sound financial choices. And this financial choices is not only for your professional aspect, even for your personal life as well, because once your personal life is settled, well organized, that is when you're going to go for a business context, correct? Also, this will give you the ability to navigate basic financial principles such as understanding interest rate, taxes, and investment strategies. So these might sound like a heavy terms for everybody of you, but there are like n number of information on the internet. Free information on the internet actually. Like if you open YouTube, you get n number of information regarding tax. regarding the interest rate. Go through it, start writing your own, like you're attending this particular session, you can set up your own session, open a YouTube, open a TEDx. So you just have to understand that and attend those kind of sessions on your own so that you improve, you learn every day, you don't stop learning. So these strategies can actually change, our economic circumstances and also fostering long-term financial stability. Now we have understood financially, networking, and even communication also. What is the next thing that we need? We need something called as a storytelling ability. So here, whenever you're talking about something, you need to always have a personal touch towards it. You need to tell that particular story. You need to explain something that has happened in your real life, which you are inspired with. That gives you a personal touch, and the listener, the speaker and the listener actually communicated here. So storytelling actually involves articulating, like, a company's vision and a mission, because every company has a vision and like statements are there. So creating these compelling narratives around products or services, engaging the audience through the storytelling in marketing and pitches. And these stories build a distinctive and memorable brand identity. Even after the person goes out of somewhere, they will be remembering, okay, I spoke to this person about this particular incident. So that stays in our memory longer than actually, going through the entire textbook jargons. So storytelling actually extends to the art of effective communication. So it again moves back to the communication skill. About what? About a company's value, about a company's culture, ethics, fostering emotions, connections with the customers. So for example, there's a website. If you open the website, the homepage just tells you that we are aiming to bring back the woolly mammoth. So they're not telling you what is the company name. They're not telling you anything. They're building a curiosity over here. So they say that they're going to bring back the woolly mammoth. What does that mean? That means that they're working something related to genetics, something related to cloning, something related to CRISPR gene editing technology. So this is where you start analyzing and start working and, start thinking about what is this person working on. They tell you a story, small story. They tell you, they build a curiosity into you. And that is where you start thinking about it. So nobody cares about your technology. If I say I'm working on LAMP technology, you don't care about it. You are like, what are you doing? What exactly are you doing? So I will tell that I'm helping the farmers better understand and identify the particular disease that is affecting that particular crop. So I'm telling a story. I'm connecting with them on a personal level. Correct. So this is where the storytelling, now communication, more than communication, I would say, start telling stories. Start telling genuine stories to people who you are speaking with. These are the things that you have to adapt and apply into your real life scenarios. Now, okay, we'll come to emotional intelligence. So we have understood even about storytelling also. So basically, whatever we saw is majorly related to communication and financial literacy. So you know what you have to do. Now, emotional intelligence. It involves cultivating self-awareness here to recognize and manage personal emotions, like demonstrating empathy by understanding what others are considering, what others' feelings is there, and how to build a positive relationship with the team members. Because whomever you're working with or who is working for you, whom you have hired for the company, you need to have a positive relationship with that particular person. And also with your clients as well, with your customers, and skillfully navigate conflicts with sensitivity and tact. So these emotional intelligence, these encompass the ability to effectively regulate and express emotions in various situations, like, promoting collaborative work environment. It also maybe involves recognizing the emotional cues of others, like you understand what the other person is actually feeling so that they have the freedom to talk to you openly about any suggestions. Anything you're doing a mistake, you're the boss of the company. If somebody comes and tells you this is what you're doing wrong, that is where you're winning, because you're giving the freedom to the person you have hired to give you the suggestion. So you're building a trust over there, and there's an open communication. So by leveraging this emotional intelligence, individuals can easily enhance the major thing that is called as a leadership skill. They can even navigate the social complexities over here. They can contribute more, and they are more empathetic actually, even in the professional space and also in the personal space. Because as an entrepreneur, there's no difference between the professional and personal space over here. You are always into one. You're always into the family, or you always actually speak about your product, your innovation, your research more to the family first than to your friends or than to your customers or than to your investors. First you speak. That is where the personal space actually gains a lot of importance over here. Right? This is called as an emotional intelligence because we are having that kind of a particular self-awareness that we are practicing within ourselves. So remember all these points, whichever I have mentioned here, it is not an overnight thing. You have to work, you have to fail at so many things. Then you're going to acquire this particular skill. Now, emotional intelligence I have spoken about. What could be an EQ? IQ and EQ. IQ and EQ is nothing but an intelligence quotient and emotional quotient. Now, IQ or EQ, it actually measures our cognitive abilities, like, problem solving skills or other, like, intelligence, like whatever you have in your mind, like you are very good at mathematics. That is an IQ. You're like fast in problem solving. That is IQ. But what is EQ? EQ is an emotional quotient. It is the interpersonal skills for you. In simple terms, IQ is about how smart you are, and EQ is about how well you understand and manage these emotions. So, for example, IQ. IQ is a measure of person's cognitive abilities, which includes reasoning, like, problem solving is there. There's a memory, there's a mathematical skill that they possess. Like they can easily solve, puzzles, understand the complex concept, excel in academic subjects and logical reasoning. Now, what is an emotional quotient then? EQ. EQ is actually a measure of emotional intelligence, which involves recognizing, understanding, and managing effectively using emotions in ourselves and also with others. So we are able to understand the room. Whenever I'm sitting in the room, I understand people, what people are going through, what are their emotions. If I'm talking about something, I understand what people are thinking about this particular talk. So it resolves around, interpersonal skills only, like maybe including empathy, communication, or relationship management. All these comes under EQ. So IQ and EQ, they play an important role. They can influence their performance in different areas such as, academics, work, and again, relationships. So to understand this particular thing, I'll tell you why is IQ important or is EQ important more. I'll tell you why. So let's have a small story time over here. Imagine there are two students. So now you have to use your imagination power. There are two students. One person is Max and the other person is Mia. So Max is really good at maths. Okay, the irony. So Max is really good at solving math problems and understanding complex science concept. That is high IQ. Now, however, when he's working on a group project, he tends to take charge without considering the ideas and feelings of other students. Okay, now we have understood about Max. Now we are coming to Mia. On the other hand, Mia may not be the top student in terms of academic subjects, or maybe she's not an excellent or at understanding how her classmates feels and making sure everyone is included and heard. Mia may not solve math problem quickly, but she actually contributes to a positive and cooperative atmosphere within the particular group. So in this simple example, what did you understand? We understand that Max actually represents high IQ, excelling in, academic tasks, while Mia actually, she represents high EQ, excelling in understanding and managing emotions in social situations. So now the answer, what is very much important? Is it IQ or EQ? Now, why EQ is important? Because we have social skills over here. We have that particular aspect. IQ is important because we have the knowledge to understand the particular technology or particular research what we are working on. So both these skills are valuable. A balance of these both, the IQ and EQ, can lead to a success in different aspects of a person's life as an entrepreneur. Correct? It is not only that IQ. If you have a high IQ, if you're not executing a particular problem, it is just stuck with you, and somebody else is coming and taking away that particular thing. So a balance of both the IQ and EQ should be maintained as an entrepreneur. Now, so we have come to 50% of the presentation over here. Here, what we are going to do is that we are trying to understand your own innovation, your own research. Even if you are an established person, you are like completed your PhD or anything, I request all of you to participate in this particular exercise. You can write down the question. So there's a series of questions, 7 or 8 pointers. So I request you to write down the answers in one line in your notebook, or you can write it down in the chat box also. Okay, so here we are trying to understand your innovation. So if you are a BSc or a master's student or a PhD scholar starting your journey as a researcher, this is a very helpful exercise for you. So let us start. Okay, let's begin with the exercise to understand the essence, purpose, and approach behind your research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Okay, so over this entire activity, 8 questions will pop up on your screen. So take your time to respond thoughtfully. Okay, jot it down in your notebook or in your mobile phone or anywhere, but write it down somewhere. You have to type or you have to write. You have to use that motor sensors here. So these questions have been carefully crafted for you to guide you through an exploration of the innovative dimensions of your research methodology, for providing a full picture of your unique ideas and goal. Okay, so by end of the 8 questions, we would probably able to identify what kind of an research you're interested in. We will be at least a vague idea about what you're interested in, we could find out. So enjoy the journey of self-discovery and innovation, and I request every one of you to participate in this particular exercise. So let's go to the first question here. Okay, now what specific research problem or gap does your innovative methodology aim to address? So this is the question that is coming up on your screen. I want you to write down your field of research first. For example, my field of research is biotechnology. Or I could start from, life science. Below life science, I could write biotechnology. Now, I'm just narrowing down the ideas over here. Below biotechnology, I would narrow it down to molecular biology. Now, after molecular biology, that is next point is diagnostics for me. So I will just see the chat box over here. So start typing here or write it down in your notebooks. So for me, life science, biotechnology, molecular biology, and diagnostics. So I have typed down my answer over here. So this is your broad spectrum. Correct? Write down. Everybody just write down. It is not for you to show it to anybody or tell anybody, but you can actually, have a documented version of your idea about it. Okay. So now let us move to the second question. I hope you can see the screen now. Let us move to the second question here. Now, how does your methodology differ from existing research methodology in your field? Now, directly this question is addressing to the methodology. Now, what is the methodology that we are using? Okay. So for example, I'll go back to the chat box over here. I'm addressing diagnostics in agricultural field. So this is what I'm addressing now. So this is the diagnostic that I'm working on, but what is the technology that I'm using? I'm using something called as a LAMP assay, which is an isothermal technology. Okay, so here, what is the question that we are asking here? How does your methodology differ from existing research methodologies in your field? So here we are not directly jumping into the what is the process, what is the procedure that you're using. We are asking what is the method that you're going to use. So you all have a particular narrowed down subject area, field of research. So now I'm saying that I'm working on LAMP technology. From this LAMP technology, I'm working on diagnostics with various crops, maybe rice, pomegranate, grapes. I'm trying to identify whichever is producing, like, whichever is having high societal impact. Now, there's another part of this question. How does this differ from existing technology? Correct. Now, how is it improve? How is it different? Now, for example, LAMP technology is already available from the year 2000. Now, how is it different? So I'm going to make this, maybe if this technology, particular technology is like done in like 10 steps, I'm doing it in 2 steps, saving so much of time. So that is the USP. That is our unique selling point over here. Okay, so let's move on to the third question now. Now, what inspired or led you to develop this particular new methodology? So here I want you to address your personal touch over here. This is where the storytelling actually comes into picture. This particular skill. For example, if I say, what inspired me, what exactly actually is inspiring me, that is, I want to provide good quality seeds to the farmer. Okay, so this is the purpose. This is my personal touch, and I'm very much include, like, I want to work not only with the crops or with the farmers. I want to even work with the medical department as well, like, with the human pathogens, whatever are there, or maybe foodborne pathogens. This is the ultimate goal now. But from where am I starting? My technology remains the same, but whatever I'm working on, the sample differs every time when I'm upgrading, when I'm upscaling. Okay, so what inspired or led you? Because I'm passionate about molecular biology. I enjoy working in the wet lab. I enjoy doing bioinformatics work. So this is the personal touch that we are giving. Okay, I hope you guys are all writing down the pointers over here. So let's go to the fourth point. So there are total 8 points. We are in the fourth point right now. Now, this is a very important. This is why I asked this question before. This is a personal touch. Now we are going to give the, now imagine you are already an entrepreneur, you already have registered your company. Now what is the company actually providing to its customers? What is your mission statement? What are the values that you stand by? What is the vision? So you can write at least one points for each of them. So my mission statement would be that I want to help the farmers again. So values would be like, we are very ethical. We are going to certify these particular seeds. Whenever we are testing, we are going to certify with accreditation, proper ISO accreditation. We are going to give a certificate so that these particular seeds can be given to the farmers, or maybe there are like seeds that are exported from one location to the another location. So that values can be addressed over here. So we are giving the assurance that whatever technology we are using is very much tested already, very much validated already. Okay, what is the vision we see? We see that the food quality, the crop quality is much better, and it is helping the farmer and in turn helping the economy of the nation. So this is our vision. So you just have to understand, like a small sentence, one sentence. It need not be, we are not sending it for corrections to a reviewer. So you just write it on your own, in your own words, in however simple as it is possible. So you have your mission statement, values, and vision. So whenever you open any company's website, these are the things that pops up after the about us statement. Okay, great. So let's move to the next question. Now, novelty. So we have come to the novelty aspect over here. What novel tools or technologies or data sources are integral to your methodology? So for me, obviously, since I'm working in molecular technology, so molecular technology, before working anything right above it, we have to start addressing what exactly the gene that we are targeting. So how does a gene be targeted? That is using the data sources such as NCBI or any bioinformatic tool. So that is where we are identifying that particular gene. If I say I'm working for the diagnostics using for the rice crop, and I want to identify this gene. So if I collect samples from Bangalore, from Mandia, from Raichur, all the samples should have the same result. It should not differ from the geographical aspect. Okay, so this is where that particular aspect is going to play an important role. So what is a novelty? So for example, I'll tell you a simple scenario that I went through when I started writing my big project. So big project is nothing called as a, it is funded by BIRAC. It is called as a biotechnology ignition grant. So it is a seed funding that is provided to startups. So they give a huge amount of 50 lakhs to start up immediately, just you can use this particular thing and start working on it. So first, when I started applying for big, I wrote a proposal, I submitted it. When I went for the final level of presentation, they asked me the question like, what is the novelty here? So we need to understand the novelty. So since I told you, I wrote even in the chat box also that the lamp technology has been developed in the year 2000. So it is like 23 years ago. What are we doing? What is the novelty in that? People have already done it. There are published papers on it. There are published patents on it. What is the novelty? So what happened? The first try, they rejected my proposal. Now I sit and I analyze what exactly is a novelty that I can use. Technology remains the same. So now I have understood that novelty should be something related to, like easier for the eco-friendly aspect. For example, I'm trying to use it in a field, so I don't want to throw everything in the field and come. I want to reuse that particular device or technology that I'm incorporating. So second time I applied in the 15th call first, then I applied in the 16th call. Then when I went to the presentation, there are 15 panel members over there. So when they ask the question, what is the novelty? So this time I'm very confident. I tell that I'm going to develop this foldable device, a reusable one. So this can easily done by anybody, who doesn't have a proper background with biotechnology or anything. So this time, second time, they asked me the question about who are your customers. So they're convinced by the novelty. They understand the novelty is okay, fine, she's doing something new. But what is so we are understanding here. Now, who is the customer that they're asking? Now, I don't have an answer for the customer. The first thing when I speak about agriculture is that I want to help farmers. This is the word that you might have heard me tell in the first few questions. So I am telling them that I want to help farmers. But they ask me another question. If you give the farmers a small device, you tell them add 1 microliter, 2 microliter of the solution on the device. They're not interested in that. They would rather throw this particular device and spray fungicides and pesticides randomly and cure that particular thing, and they will harvest the crop and they will move on to the next field. Now, the second time they reject my proposal saying that this particular project is not having a proper clarity about the market in the sense who are my customers are. So this is where the novelty plays an important role, because from novelty we are enhancing it. From enhancing it, we are analyzing who is going to use it. So I apply for the 17th call. So this big grant, they call yearly twice. So I apply for the 17th call now. So now before submitting or before attending anything, I speak to my mentors. I speak to people around me. I speak to even some of the farmers also. I ask them, what is the necessity? Do you actually need this kind of a product in your field? So now, after analyzing from everybody, I understood that the customer must be a seed testing company. A company must be using it because there are so many seeds that are imported and exported in and out of the country. So they need that particular device. They need that particular technology, not the farmers. Farmers are going to be the consumer of the seeds, not my technology. There is no way that I can go convince the farmers to actually adapt this particular technologies. For that, I need to convince them to do a degree also then, right? So that is where the novelty plays an important role. So this time I go in front of the panel member almost confident because that is the third time I'm trying. So I tell them this is the novelty and this is the particular technology I'll be using, and these are the customers that I'm targeting. So this is when I got my 50 lakhs grant. So this is the first BIG grant that I received, and fortunate enough to actually be with CCAM. And by the time I completed so much here, like the project and everything, we actually in the last 3 years had almost 18 publications in high impact factor journals, and one Indian patent granted, and three Germany innovative patents and three Australian innovative patents, adding up to 7 patents, granted patents we have in the last 3 years. So that is the biggest achievement for our startup in collaboration with this particular agricultural university. So this is where novelty actually plays a role. So whenever you're writing about novelty, for example, write something that is related to your particular technology. Okay, now coming to the sixth question over here. Now, everything, whatever you want to start, there is going to be some kind of a threat, some kind of a challenge that you need to face. What are the challenges and limitations do you anticipate? So in my LAMP technology, I would say that this particular LAMP technology is having so and so limitations. Like, there's a lot of optimization steps are there, but once it is optimized, the technology is like none other. Like we use this PCR technology, gold standard method. So none other than like we are using something similar to that, but it's just rapid, which is faster. PCR does the work in 2.5 hours. Our job will be done within half an hour, including sample preparation with less amount of solutions, less amount of samples, and even in the field also we are trying to do it. So we are not only doing it in the laboratory, in the field, and with less equipment usage. So you need to not only address your challenges, you need to have a plan on how to address these particular challenges and limitations. So write down just in 2 lines, what is the challenge? What is the plan to overcome it? Just 2 lines above it. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So 7th question. So this is my favorite topic right now. So who are your potential users or customers? Correct. So you need to understand. I understand that most of you are researchers. So you have to understand that what is your research going to do to the society? Who is it going to help? Not just customers, but who is it going to help? If you're working in a particular drug discovery department, who is it going to help? Agriculture department, who is the customer? Who is the potential advantage? Who is getting the advantage of you developing this particular technology? It is not only you that you publish a paper and you get an advantage, but you have to have a particular societal impact for this. Correct. So now just write in 1 word or 2 words, that is also more than enough for them. Now, the 8th point that we are going to do. Now, how do you see your product? How do you see your research in the future? For example, now we have started your research. Where do you see your research in the next 3 years? Who is it helping? What is it doing for the future? What is it doing for the environment? What is it doing for the society? So this can be addressed here. Okay, so here, just write down in 1 line again. So I hope all of you have participated over here. So here we are understanding the future envision. So what exactly are we trying to do? We are not doing just for the sake of completing a particular degree here. We are actually doing this contributing to the society a little bit. Okay, so this is what we are supposed to do. So this is the exercise. So for example, now I gave the exercise of 8 questions in just few minutes, and you started writing point by point. If I give you 1 week time to actually draft a proposal according to this particular questions, or maybe if I give you 1 month, how much you would be able to write, how much you would be able to research on this particular topic. Correct. So always have this idea that these are the basic things. Whatever you have documented today, maybe in one sheet also, one line also, this can be helpful for you to write your research paper or research grant, anything. So these are the 8 pointers. Now, this is one of the quote which I heard from one of my family member. They told me that it is not just, this is something related to the IQ or EQ. Correct. So everything you see around you, everything you see around you is made by people less smarter than you. Right? They are no smarter. They're not so much smart, but they have the high EQ. That is the execution factor also, because they're not just keeping their whatever you have learned all these while, all the 7, 8 questions. So here you're going to put it into action. Then only you're a winner. If somebody is like selling all of those things, all drafted and put it in a small research or correspondence article, they are the winner and you're the loser, even though you have so much of resource in your hand. Person who is out in the public, out in the market, is always the winner. So this is some of the like bonus points I would say that I will be giving. So first one is that you need to always have that execution skill, because not just having the IQ, not just understanding how to read a research paper, how to perform a particular experiment, how to be having that particular skill, but you need to execute, you need to take action. That is when you're going to achieve something in the research field or even in your life also. Now, second bonus point is this. So right now, that this is the reason I told you to write down everything, not just keep it in your mind, because our mind is not a to-do list. We are not a sticky note. Our mind is to think and take action. Our mind is not to remember. We are not to-do list. We are not checklist. We are not using our brain as a checklist over here. Write down everything. Whenever you have an idea, like how Dr. Soumya Rani told, put it in a post-it note. Put it in a post-it note on the wall, wherever you can see it every day. It is not fixable. You can actually remove it, move, play around with it and everything. But document everything. Or open a folder in your laptop also. Create all the idea. Take the time actually to put your thoughts on a paper. Okay, not in a detailed manner, but pointer wise also would be very easy for you. So break them like apart, like clarity, express the finer details over here. This process can actually help you understand and communicate your concept actually effectively, like having clarity, or maybe enabling others to grasp your vision very easily. Because end of the day, you have to convince people that your idea is something different, your idea is something better. So you need to have that clarity in your mind first to convince people. Also, you have to keep in mind that using simple language that has to make your ideas more accessible to everybody, for collaboration or for innovation within your broader audience. For example, you're just speaking to a supervisor over here, you're speaking to a PI, you're speaking to a mentor. At least for them, that needs to be in a very simple language. Now, final bonus point is something called as a SWOT analysis. So this is a tool which I used from the starting of my startup journey. Okay, so this is something called as a SWOT analysis. So you can see on the screen, it says SWOT. So SWOT analysis, it is a valuable tool for anybody, be it you're a student, you're a researcher, or you are an entrepreneur. It involves a comprehensive self-assessment and evaluation of internal strength and weaknesses, as well as the opportunities of the threat. It also will be able to provide you with a framework of guiding a decision making. So when you fill these particular table, you will be able to have that particular clarity so that you can make the decision. It can be project assessment, you can have a future planning, you can ultimately enhance the understanding of your position and aiding in effective research and in research management, risk management also. So S stands for strength. So now here you are going to identify what you're good at, what are your advantages, what are your positive internal factors that sets you apart from other people. So this is a competitive world, so we are always understanding our strength first. Okay, so this is where it's like looking at your superpowers over here. You're a superhero. What are your superpowers? You have to mention it in the strength. Second is the weaknesses. Now recognize areas where you could improve or aspect that you put as an advantage. Okay, these are the challenges you need to overcome. So weaknesses, for example, when I am filling this particular form, my weaknesses should be more than my strength, because that gives me room to actually grow in the environment. Okay, so write down the weaknesses. It is just personal for you, for your particular growth. You need not showcase it to anybody here. So write down, feel free to put on all the weaknesses that you have. You are very bad at communication. Write down bad at communication. Your strength is that maybe you're good at communication, or you're good at writing some kind of a proposal. Your writing is good. That is your strength. Now, weakness does not stop just by pointing it out. Strength stops by pointing it out. Weakness will stop when you are actually taking an action to address that particular weakness. I'm bad at communication. Okay, what do I do next? How do I learn communication? Now, opportunities. So these are like something, when you explore external factors that could be beneficial, these are like, chances to seize that particular opportunity. With the particular strength that you have, what are the opportunities that you can accomplish? Finally, coming to threats. So I usually call threats as challenges over here, because threats are never threat. It is always something that you challenge. And until you challenge yourself, you don't move out of your comfort zone. So it is like, be aware of your external factors that might pose a risk or challenge. These potential obstacles, you might need to actually, kind of navigate it first. Threats, you note it down. Weakness and threats almost like a challenge only. So you have to note it down. You need to take action. You need to address and how to take challenges. Okay. So these are the first three, like IQ versus the EQ. These are the 3 bonus points. Second one is document your idea. Whatever you know, whatever you have in your mind, put it on a paper and leave it there. After years also you open, but the paper should always be there. You maintain a particular diary with yourself. Put your, like, New Year is coming, 2024. Full year, maintain only one diary. Wherever you're going, maintain only one diary. If somebody is handing you over the visiting card or business card, staple it on that diary. On a particular page, write that information. When you met that person, what did you discuss? Don't keep it in your mind. So document means everything, not just writing a research paper or a proposal grant. It means everything that is happening in your day-to-day life also. Finally, SWOT analysis. These are the 3 important bonus points that I would like you to take away from this particular session. Finally, there's one slide here. So I would like all of you to participate whenever you want, whenever you require. So this is a dare to everybody, everyone, all the participants, all the students, all the research scholars. So a dare to everybody. I want you people to fail at something. So this is something I do at all my sessions. So here, I ask you, I request you, I urge you to fail at something. You try something. I dare, like, apply for your dream job, like, or an internship also. You always wanted to get in, and receive that rejection letter. Success will teach you and it will go. Failure will teach you and it will stay with you forever. So I want you to understand how that failure tastes to you, for you. So you can say that, how can we, achieve failure? How can we actually go towards failure? This is here. Anyway, you're going to fail at something. But why not intentionally do it and understand how your memory, how your brain actually reacts to it, how your brain actually reacts to failure. Because all the while in the college, in school time, everywhere they have taught us how to actually succeed. Run, 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 you always succeed. But you are eventually failing, and you don't know what to do after that. So this is where this particular ability is going to come. If you achieve this, whatever the skills, whatever the mindset I told you, that all goes behind. This is the important skill that you need to achieve. So I dare everybody to just try, like, embrace that failure as a necessary or a positive part of the journey. Don't be afraid, like, try to try something new. And even if there is a chance of, like, failure, it is worth doing it. It's through these experience that we grow, learn, and achieve great things actually. So I request you all to actually participate in this particular thing, be it any time, be it, for example, today, tomorrow, after 1 month, after 1 year. Keep it time bound and actually fail at something. And when you fail at that, you write to me. I have my contact details in the coming last slide. So there I want you to write the subject line as I failed. Very happily, I want you to write I failed, and I want you to write me a mail saying that I failed at this thing, I tried this, I failed. That is how you are going to embrace your failure, embrace your achievements, embrace your success. Once you start with failure, everything ahead of you is success. I can assure you that, because if I would have stopped at applying for the grant for big biotechnology ignition grant from BIRAC in the first go, I wouldn't have got the project today. I wouldn't have become the principal investigator today. So through the failures, I learned each and every stage. They ask me, novelty is not there. They ask me, I go and come back, I prepare and come back. They tell me, you don't have the clarity of customers. I go, I prepare, I do the proper literature review, I come back. So always failure is going to teach you, and it actually improved my particular proposal which I had. If I see the first draft of the proposal, it was a very cringe moment for me. So through the journey, I actually learned from failure, and this is one of the success failure story which I could tell as an example for you. So I urge all of you to fail at something. Today you try something new, and or you can try at any point of time. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for patiently listening to the second session of the today's talk. So thank you, and these are the contact details, and you can write to me regarding any queries you have, or you can write to me if you have failed. If you succeeded, please don't write to me. So if you have failed, please do write to me, and I would open the floor for the questions further. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants, if you have any queries, please post them in the chat box or in the Q&A. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Yes. Ma'am, we have a question. You were saying how your grant got rejected at the final stage. So you had a good feedback about what exactly was lacking in the proposal that you had prepared or when you had prepared for the interview. But
Yes.
what if someone's proposal gets rejected at the first stage? What do they do then? How do they know where exactly they are lacking?
Okay. So when you write a proposal, there are series of screening that is done. So first stage is that it goes to 3 reviewers. Like how you write a research paper, similar way, it goes to 2 to 3 reviewers. So you need to get thumbs up from at least 2 reviewers over there. So what they do is they write you a mail back saying that this is rejected, and they also provide you with a comment. So that is where you understand. You need not go to the final stage to understand what is wrong. In the first stage also, sometimes even some of my proposals at Elevate Startup Karnataka has also been rejected in 2019. So they always state with a proper comment. Reviewer 1 will give you the comment stating that there's no clarity in your particular market analysis. There is no clarity in your introduction or a background study. Or they can even say that you don't have a particular, I'm doing diagnostics, so I need to have that particular technology hands-on. So you're not a proper person to actually conduct this particular experiment or a research. So the feedback is always given to the people. There's no empty, they don't leave you on hold. Actually, they always give you a feedback.
Thank you, ma'am. We have another question. How do we actually improve our EQ?
So that happens with you adjusting and accepting the failures. So the more you even networking also plays an important role over there. So you communicate with people. If you are just talking to your friends, you will always be they say, if you are the brilliant person in the room, you are the foolish person or something like that. So it is you need to communicate more to understand, and that is where you empathize with people. That is what I'm telling you. You talk to people whenever there's a session like this. something, go to some other session where it is not related to your stream, it is not to your field. So that is when you understand people. So that is, even you need to study people also first to understand that. Once you understand, you actually automatically you will generate that kind of an empathy. You will connect with that particular people. Not only through sessions, you can go to a particular shop also, speak to somebody. You can actually have a proper conversations. You can speak to some other supervisors, some other mentor. So you can actually have this kind of events where you can improve. That is, it is not theoretical, it is practical. Okay, so once you do all of those things, like I said, you apply for an internship or something like a dream job abroad also, you write it. You are expecting a rejection. That means your EQ is actually enhancing. Your EQ is actually growing over here. Yes, you need to understand from yourself, internally, you need to understand that I'm going to fail at something. I'm going to talk to this particular person. I'm going to be embarrassed. I'm going to have a cringe moment. So acceptance is what it begins with.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you for providing your details, contact details, so that our participants can get back to you, maybe with their grant proposals, or maybe if they just want to talk to you, and especially if they have faced a failure.
Thank you so much.
So as we come to the end of the FDP, I now hand over the session to Dr. Pankaj from St. Francis College.
So thank you, Dr. Rima Lobo ma'am. Thank you so much for taking up the Q&A with our second resource person. So participants, be online. We'll be sharing the link for the feedback for your e-certificates. So kindly be online. We'll be sharing in a while. So as we come to the closure of our today's FDP, I would like to invite our Vice Principal from St. Francis College, Professor Karthik P, to give us the closing remarks. Karthik, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Hope I'm audible. Ladies and gentlemen, respected dignitaries from St. Francis College and Jyoti Niwas College, faculty members of SFC, JNC, other colleges across India and other parts, research scholars, good afternoon. I wholeheartedly thank you for your active participation in this FDP for both the sessions on research and innovation. I was just observing and I have witnessed over around 410 participants have attended today's hybrid mode of FDP. I think throughout both the sessions, I have never seen the participants the number coming down. So this is obviously a remarkable achievement. Thanks to the conveners of both St. Francis College and Jyoti Niwas College for taking this collaboration ahead and making it successful. Dear participants, may you newfound insights about today's FDP on research and innovation inspire you and make impactful contributions to the realm of academia, research, and innovation. We have explored various facets of research from the first session and through the second session, the entrepreneurship, innovation, and in the first session, manuscript writing and publishing, relevance of innovation and entrepreneurship in today's dynamic and competitive environment. I'm very sure it might have enhanced our research pursuits. We all know and agree innovation is the catalyst for progress and enhancement of our professional journey. Let's innovate, stay curious, collaborate, and continue pushing towards the pursuit of knowledge, learning, and excellence. Best wishes to all the participants and the conveners. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Pankaj.
Thank you, Karthik, sir, for your kind words. Thank you so much for your time as well as you've committed. You spent time with us. Thank you so much again, sir. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Nazura Javed. She's our head of the department for MCA program for the vote of thanks. Nazura, ma'am.
Thank you, Pankaj, ma'am. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected dignitaries, esteemed resource persons, and fellow researchers. We have had two interesting, informative, and insightful sessions. And it is definitely my privilege to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of IIC and Research and Innovation Cell, St. Francis College and Jyoti Nivas College. First and foremost, a heartfelt thanks to both our resource persons, Dr. K.S. Soumya Rani, editor Editage, and founder editor and reviewer at Somis AWW, and Ms. Buela Pariwala, founder and CEO, Dendrite Technologies. Dr. Soumya, your crisp and clear session was definitely enlightening. Conceiving a research idea, developing a research proposal, conducting literature review, finding the research gaps, working on the methodology, and definitely presenting it precisely and effectively, formally. Your inputs on these were definitely very valuable and provided us the much needed insights. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable time. Viola, ma'am, thank you for your magical session on innovation and entrepreneurship, novelty, innovation, creativity, solutions, and wealth generation. Your inputs were valuable. Turning ideas into reality, communicating, collaborating, networking. Our young aspiring entrepreneurs definitely need to work on these. Now, on behalf of the IIC and Research and Innovation Cell, St. Francis College and Jyoti Nivas College, I thank the chief patrons, Reverend Brother Peter, Director, St. Francis College, Reverend Brother Titus Anto, Deputy Director and IIC member, St. Francis College, Dr. R.N. Subbarao, Principal, St. Francis College, Mr. Karthik P., Vice Principal, St. Francis College, Dr. S. Mary Louisa S., Principal and IIC member, Jyoti Nivas College. Heartfelt thanks to our advisors, Dr. Carol Stanley, IQAC Coordinator, Jyoti Nivas College, Dr. Balaji, Dr. Nazura, Dr. Ambika, Dr. Ayappan, Dr. Pushpalata, members of Research and Innovation Cell, St. Francis College. A profound thanks to the FDP coordinators. Without their initiation and coordination, this would not have happened. So profound thanks to Dr. Pankaj Tiwari, Research and Innovation Coordinator and IIC Convener, St. Francis College, Dr. Preeti Mangala, Research Coordinator, IIC, Vice President, Jyoti Nivas College. We have Dr. Irene Getzi. Just a moment. Dr. Irene Getzi, I'm sorry. Dr. Irene Getzi, Innovation Coordinator and IIC President, Jyoti Nivas College. Dr. Priyadarshini Pillai, Research Coordinator and IIC Convener, Jyoti Nivas College. A sincere thanks to all the colleagues, to all my colleagues, fellow researchers and attendees. I'm sure there have been wonderful audience with very active participation. Thank you so much. I hand over to Dr. Pankaj. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nazira ma'am. It was so kind of you. And I really wanted to say thanks to everybody, whoever is online and who's offline too, because I know at the Jyoti Nivas College, they've been attending offline also. So we will close for today and looking forward to have many more such sessions. So please stay connected. Anything specifically you're looking from us, feel free to contact me. I believe my numbers are there, and likewise Priyadarshini ma'am's number is also there. So thank you, everyone. We'll be closing for today. Thank you again.